showing on my dashboard, too. It says offline on my... It says live.
Hey, everybody, this is John B. Wells, and you're listening to The Martian Revelations. Strap in tight.
The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Go to www.thefacesofmars.com. That's www.thefacesofmars.com.
It's go time.
Trigger, round the bullet, cut the coat wrapped around your neck. Hanging by threads, hands bleeding. It's your glory, write your story, seize the moment, no regrets. Our name in stone forevermore. We want more, we want more, we want more. It's our time to shoot the stars. We ain't gonna stop till the world is ours.
That's right. Be legendary. Good evening, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, and all you ETs out there on the bite waves of the internet and wherever you're at down through time monitoring this show. I am your host, the legendary Gary Legier, known also as the Mars Revealer and the Mad Martian. And you're listening to the Martian Revelation that is upon you all again now. Be legendary. And today is March 9th of 2019, or the 10th, depending upon your time zone, as this airs through time. And you're listening to this broadcast through Global Enlightenment Radio Network, as well as through www.thefacesofmars.com, which is your defense for the war which we all fight against the evil dark missioners, who are all leading you away from the light and manipulating you all instead to help you open your wallets and your pocketbooks to only join their dark-sided special clubs that only allows them more power to continue to mislead you all and to steer you all away from the truth that they themselves not wish to face or even admit to, let alone to even talk about.
Yeah, UFO Diaries. Faces on Mars.
Cover up controversy. Down
Through time.
That's right. So the Martian Revelation is, however, 100% listener supported, with no special clubs to join. So if you're a listener, please help support the Martian Revelation show, again, which is your defense for that war which we all fight against evil dark missioners, to bring you the truth, one show at a time. So please share the facesofmars.com link, and please donate anything that you can to help the show with anything that you could afford to allow it to continue being here for you, as it is because of you, the listener, of which makes the Martian Revelation possible to be brought to you all back through time. So that's why your listenership and your donation support actually counts, and it actually helps us all to not only fight, but to win against those evil dark missioners, as well as to secure a future which we all could literally make the Martian Revelation our reality. By what? By making our fate. Just remember also that if you're listening to this Martian Revelation show, then know this, that you are the resistance down through time. And we got a very interesting show tonight, who we're going to bring on later and introduce, Mr. Jonathan J. Womack. And this guy's written a book called Old Souls, and I'm reading this book now. I got a third left. And, you know, I got to say it is interesting. But it also, what is interesting about it is the fact of our souls, our essences of who we are and or who we were. You know, there's lots of feelings and beliefs out there about reincarnation or life after death or what happens to your soul, your essence, your spirit, as it was, after you die. And why? In reincarnation, many believe that when they return, if they return to another body, sometimes they get glimpses of their past lives. Sometimes they don't. Most of the times they don't. But I don't know. All I know is it's not an alien concept as it was, considering if there were souls from another world that weren't exactly human or different. And we know there's different forms of life out there that might take on carbon-based life forms or even silicon-based, which Mars has a lot of, by the way, the silicon factor. But regardless of how that may apply or not to us, and regards to other souls, old souls, it doesn't just have to be from Earth. And differences between the concepts of interdimensional beings and their essences of what, and never mind that, of even scriptures, of what those interdimensional beings that's talked about regards UFOs and whatnot, and listeners to this show could appreciate where we've been kind of going. It's not impossible to also consider the scriptural biblical side aspects to these interdimensional beings. Well, we do know of that there are spirit beings who are real, that indeed do go into people, noted time and time again throughout scriptures and even outside of scriptures, where much of the time they show their malevolence, not much so of benevolence. But regardless even of that factor, therefore it's not far-fetched to conceive that they're, let's say for Mars, for instance, of what went on there, was proposed model about what Mars once was, what it was once a part of the big world, the asteroid belt, that the Sumerians from the Anunnaki had told them that our planet is a part of the chunk blasted from that planet called Tiamat. Some people know it as Marduk, but it was originally also known as Tiamat, and there's other names. The watery world with rivers of gold. What the Anunnaki come here for? It makes sense that if we're a chunk of that planet, it wasn't so much easily to attain as it was on that world, I'm sure. If we're a chunk of it, this thing was put through hell, and we were positioned in another orbit and given one of its moons as our counterbalance, and also, obviously, intelligently designed waste station of some sort. There's much of science backing that up, even by mainstream scientists today, walking the limb saying, hey, that's an artificial structure. It's hollow inside. And there's even been attributes of connections to even stories about the moon being soul factories. Now, look, all I'm saying, it's not impossible for whoever or whatever lived on that world and on Mars and what had happened, this great big cosmic war that blew up Planet 5. Our guest tonight speaks of a possible, hypothetical, entertaining scenario based on the model of that, and regards to that those souls could also come here to Earth and actually help seed Earth. And not all of us would be them. Or then again, we could be. Or there's just only a few souls, maybe from there, that inhabit the people here on Earth, or certain people here on Earth. In essence, trying to work to prevent what had once happened from happening again. So from that outline and outlook, regards to his book, I find it very interesting. I find it relevant. And why not? It's things to conceive, the things that make you go, especially from a person coming from a perspective of out-of-body experiences. So much of this, I guess, has been the inspiration for his work and took it on another level to where I think that somehow something connects in this all. I don't know his story yet, but we're going to find out tonight. But I want to talk about that aspect of old souls and immigrating from one world to another, taking on other bodies, going in other bodies. It's not far-fetched, especially for believers in the scriptures. And again, I hope to have Mr. Pastor John S. Terrell on this show eventually, because he's got valuable input on that may also help lead many of you to King Holy Be Jesus. And that would be a double good thing that this show could do. At least I'm trying to create interest for my mina I was given. I know many of you Nazis not see what I'm talking about, or think I'm stark raving mad, thus the name Mad Martian, which could also be true in some cases. But anyway, so at least it should be an entertaining night. So anyway, let's get to some news. And we'll start out with this article from March 6th by staff writers of JPL. Mars Insight Lander's mole pauses digging. Gee, who didn't see that coming? As last week we described that thing was digging, it started hitting rocks. You'd think. But anyway, NASA's Mars Insight Lander has a probe designed to dig up to 16 feet below the surface and measure heat coming from inside the planet. Again, listeners of this show could appreciate that we know that they're looking for the subsurface illegals. Remember, because Vice President Mike Pence said it himself.
And here from this bridge to space, our nation will return to the moon and we will put American boots on the face of Mars.
So when you put 2 and 2 together like that, we can come out with a scenario of what some of the classified aspects of this mission are. But after beginning to hammer itself into the soil on Thursday of February 28th, the 16-inch long probe, part of an instrument called the Heat and Physical Properties Package, or HP3, got about 3/4 of the way out of its housing structure before stopping. No significant progress was seen after a second bout of hammering on Saturday, March 2nd, that we detailed last week. But data suggests the probe, known as the Mole, is at a 15-degree tilt. Scientists suspect it hit a rock or some gravel. The team had hoped there would be relatively few rocks below ground. You see? But given how few appear on the surface beside the lander, so they didn't look that good, is what that's telling us. They should use Mars Express to help, as that could help see the tattoo of the planet all the more better, in my opinion, as evidenced in their imagery. But anyway, even so, the mole was designed to push small rocks aside or wend its way around them. The instrument, which was provided for Mars Insight by the German Aerospace Center, DLR, did so repeatedly during testing before Mars Insight launched. The team has decided to pause the hammering for now to allow the situation to be analyzed more closely and jointly come up with strategies for overcoming the obstacle, HP3 Principal Investigator Tillman Spahn of DLR wrote in a blog post. He added that the team wants to hold off from further hammering for about 2 weeks. Why? Because this thing has got them hammered. They don't know what to do now with it. It's got to make you wonder, how are they going to get around it? We don't know. We don't really know what's making it turn. Maybe because it gets harder as it goes down. Maybe it's hitting some metal. I don't know. I think that would definitely be further down. But yeah, if this thing couldn't push little rocks out of the way, what about bigger rocks? But they didn't do any looking. The probe, at least up to a foot. What did any radar give them of any signatures? I mean, come on. They should have sent a bigger mole, a more powerful pounder. Maybe something to shoot it into the surface instead of taking forever to go down millimeter by millimeter by millimeter. Something to go bang and make it go boom into the surface. And then use that as the mechanism to pound down. The probe could have been put inside the bullet that it would shoot into the ground as it was. But I don't know. At least that makes sense to me. I'm not the rocket scientist here. But anyway, the data does show that the probe itself continues to function as expected. After heating by 50 degrees Fahrenheit, it measures how quickly that heat dissipates in the soil. This property, known as thermal conductivity, helps calibrate sensors embedded in a tether trailing from the back of the mole. Once the mole is deep enough, these tether sensors can measure Mars's natural heat coming from inside the planet, which is generated by radioactive materials decaying and energy left over from Mars's formation. Okay, again, they keep wanting us to think that these experiments will help solve and answer their theory of what they think, how the worlds were made. I'm going to say it again here and now. I don't care what anyone says. They are very far from, even with these primitive experiments, to answer that astronomical type question. Not enough data is had left over from Mars's formation. It could also be from the subsurface illegals. I mean, there is another way to look at it, but this just shows the turtleneck pace speed. Why is it this thing not good enough to be accurately doing what it's supposed to do? 16 feet. It's going to take a hell of a long time to get there based upon what they were trying to do. But again, what do I know? But the team will be conducting further heat tests this week to measure the thermal conductivity of the upper surface. Remember, because now it's starting to go sideways, not downward. But they will also use a radiometer on Mars's inside's deck to measure temperature changes on the surface. Mars's moon Phobos will pass in front of the sun several times this week, like a cloud passing overhead. The eclipse will darken and cool the ground around Mars' inside. Really? Maybe. But remember, Phobos is not that big to leave that big of an imprint. Maybe that not big enough for one that would make that temperature change, especially if it goes over that exact spot, which would be a good place to land to test that, I do admit, but I don't think they knew of that when and where they landed it. I don't think that was in its decision factors. But again, what do I know? But I got to ask this. What do the Chinese know? That's what we should all be thinking. Because here's an article. I want to read a couple articles, and one might touch on the other, but there may be some pertinent information from both to share combined that we need to know. China plans to launch a Mars rover next year. That's right. China plans to launch a Mars rover next year. The space race is on. Wake up. But after landing the world's first rover on the far side of the moon early this year, China has already far more ambitious plans in the works, sending a rover to Mars. Over the past 60 years, we've made a lot of achievements, but there is still a large distance from the world's space powers. Chief designer of China's lunar exploration program, Wu Weiren, said ahead of the opening of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference. You mean the People's Political Commie Conference? CNN reports, of all people, the Commie News Network. But next year, we will launch a Mars probe, which will orbit around the planet Mars, land on it, and probe it. China's space program has rapidly picked up pace. I told you, wake up. Its U-21 rover landed on the moon in 2013. A second rover landed on the far side some 6 years later, and a third rover will follow at the end of this year with the goal of returning to Earth with at least 4 pounds of lunar soil and rock samples. Not the ones that NASA likes to give out and say that they were real and they turned out to be something else. Remember that one? But I'm crazy. But anyway, but increasingly, China's space agency has been focusing its efforts on the red planet. China had opened this first Mars simulation base last week in Qinghai province at a location known to have similarities to the Martian surface. The base can house 60 people in its futuristic capsules. That's right, its base can house 60 people in its futuristic capsules. At least Elon Musk still showing he has bigger balls. He's shooting for the big effing rocket to fill 100 people. Again, wake up, America. But China won't be the first nation to explore Mars, as we know. NASA, for one, has a considerable head start. Do they? But they've been continuing at a turtleneck pace speed for the last, who knows, few decades, giving away our technology, enabling other countries to also be where they're going to make this a space race where our national security and future is at stake. But maybe that's part of the plan. Get the world going at once so we all do see it right in the face. Where, again, Vice President Mike Pence said,
And here from this bridge to space, our nation will return to the moon and we will put American boots on the face of Mars.
So make no mistake about it, this is a race. But its Jet Propulsion Lab has so far sent 4 remotely operated rovers to the Martian surface to look for signs of life and gather scientific data about the distant world. Both NASA and the European Space Agency each plan to send new rovers to Mars as soon as next year. But China is making a substantial effort to catch up. Now think about this. The race is on. The Mars rover 2020 is going to be sent next year, as well as ESA's new rover, now named the Rosalind Franklin. Both with not light detection experiments, but only with many experiments and laboratories on board to look for possible signs of life instead of actually finding it. That has not been NASA's role, nor the role lead for the other nations that we collaborate and give them all our stuff, threatening our future stability of our nation in space. That we're now in a space race, and that we got to catch up. But I want you to think about this. Again, not to look for actual life, not to detect actual life. In fact, actual life was detected. This segues into that. It was actually detected in 1976 in Croatia, Planitia, and Utopia, Planitia, on both Viking landers that landed in 1976, more than 4,000 miles apart from each other, that conducted tests called the Controlled Labeled Release Experiments. That NASA went to Dr. Gil Levin, who's 95 years old now, if not damn well close, whose experiments NASA came to put on board with that experiment, that life detection experiment, and it detected life. But instead of telling the world about it, because Dr. Gil Levin did, he got kicked in the balls by NASA. And he didn't want to keep being accepting that he had to keep being kicked in them, because NASA wanted to tell him to tell the public that no, that the experiments did not discover actual life, but only possible signs of life. And that's false. And all these years, Dr. Gil Levin has been submitting proposals to have upgraded even controlled labeled release experiments on board the rovers and landers that have went since 1976, only to be denied each time and be made ridiculed of like he's the Jesse Marcel of the Viking mission. Again, comparative to Jesse Marcel, who was the false soldier to get bashed regards to the Roswell craft, and detailing to the public what it actually was, when it was in fact the Army themselves that stated they captured the damn thing. But he was the fall guy because they wanted to retract. The same thing with Dr. Gil. He wanted to tell us he's seen it, he knows it, but then he gets kicked in the balls for what? Something NASA came to him to do for on our behalf. But the problem was, like Dr. Gil said, they weren't expecting to find life. And sure, they must not have been if they kicked them in the balls. Right? Think about this. To mock him and joke at him because of the policy that's enacted. And that's the same year, by the way, that they discovered the face at Cydonia staring up at them. And listeners to this show can certainly appreciate the many other faces that it is also seen but kept hidden from us, that the dark mission does not want to even talk about. See how this all connects together? a big policy. Oh my God, we got to face. Oh my God, we discovered life. Oh, panic. No, they just wanted to continue to milk and bilk our monies and just keep it as a symbolic gesture and keep everyone eating their hot dogs on that commemorative bicentennial day. You see, this is where it gets into the conspiracy aspects. It's not a conspiracy. It's the truth. Like Dr. Gil Levin said, NASA has to be made to feel embarrassed. The last submission that he had sent was sent home to him in a cab. Again, I had him on in May 2018. Actually, we had also started a petition that didn't go far, but it was symbolic, and it was to prepare for the next one that we're going to have. This brings a good time to update, because we're going to launch the petition again in a couple weeks. So please support the Dr. Gil Levin's Martian Revelation Life Validation Campaign, because it's going to be a petition to where we need 100,000 signatures within 30 days, in which will then have to be addressed by Congress and be seen by the President of the United States and the Vice President, Mr. Mike Pence, who's also the chairman of the National Space Council. Now think about this. Wouldn't that be great? Because with our signatures leading the way that we the people want Dr. Gil Levin's upgraded controlled label release experiments, light detection experiments on board, and I'm going to add also separate from a percolator experiment. Because they like to say that it percolates. False positives of life. Well, if we have Dr. Gil's, both with microscopes in them now, mind you, to see him do this, to replicate the Viking findings, which I'm sure it will, because the Vikings already replicated each other. In science, that's already considered replication. But he understands, all right, let's re-replicate. Science is about repeatability, as someone that we all know once said. So it's the only right thing in science to do is to continue to pursue and find out for sure whether NASA has kicked Dr. Gil Levin in the nuts and blackballed him for all these years, and us. Remember, what they did to him is because of what he decided to announce to us, that they discovered life on Mars. So therefore, no, you have to tell the public that the experiments only discovered possible signs of life. Now look at every wording of their public strategy since then, of their turtleneck pace speed of bringing out the truth to us, to the Martian revelation. They are only looking for possible signs of life, not to actually find it. Why? So this is why we need 100,000 signatures, because we have to break that policy by us. We have to make our fate, and that means by you all signing it, letting your voice be seen and heard by just typing a few characters to submit your name to the proposal for the petition, where they'll have to address it. Now, mind you, I'm going to add a clause to this petition for the benefit of Vice President Mike Pence as well as my President Donald Doug Trump. Why? Because the Chinese just announced that they have plans to go there and do it. If they go there and discover life, and how would we look? We've already discovered it. And Dr. Gil Levin, again, he's almost 95 years old now. And he's smart as a whip, and he wants to have this solved and answered. He didn't go out to kick them in the nuts. They kicked him. And they wanted him to submit to their turtleneck pace speed policy agenda regards to all this. He is someone who deserves validation and vindication. And he needs your help because he's an American hero. And he tried to get to tell us this news. And they want to erase his name from the history books of the facts by the controlled agenda for the narrative of how they want us to think of a reality. So now we can bypass NASA altogether, because if the people submit this, Congress has to hear it. And again, my clause to my President Doug Trump is that it's going to state, hey, you wanted to be in your first term. In your first term, you could have answered life on Mars, validating and vindicating Dr. Gil Levin, doing something no other president has had the balls to do. Announce life discovered on Mars, reaffirming and again placing Dr. Gil Levin back in the high standards that he deserves from we the people, especially for what we gave to NASA, of what they're supposed to represent and do for us. So if they're not doing it, my President Doug Trump, we all implore you to please act on our behalf of we the people. We need to be the ones, since it was us that discovered life on Mars, not the Chinese, not our enemies, not other nations that they still worked very hard to collaborate with. We have to focus on America first, like you said, and that is making America great again. And I say make America great permanently, because if they win, there'll be no more America. That's what's at stake here. And we can have the people in our hands just by this petition to do something great for an elder of America, a great American that we should all respect. In the least, that's what it's about. Respecting your elders, especially in terms of this. So again, just to let know to everyone, it's being put forth. We're all in touch with each other now, Dr. Gil Levin, I myself, as well as Mr. John B. Wells. And we'll let you know. I'll keep you in the loop. It'll be in a couple weeks. And then we'll launch this petition. And with his help and others, again, friends and frenemies alike, this benefits us all. And Dr. Gil Levin deserves all our respect. And he needs all of our help to have validation and vindication. So he knows that his legacy and his place is righteously restored under him, especially in the Hall of Fame of great Americans who discovered life on Mars again in 1976. Say what you want about me, think what you want. My heart's in the right place and yours should be too. We can't let them, China, Europe, Iran, anyone else, Russia, get there and get these answers to bring forth to the people first. We already got them with their technology is sound on the far side of the moon. They want to put moon bases and orbiting stations. And it's not to show and reveal to us everything they see and learn, not for the benefit of knowledge of mankind, but for the benefit of their commie army and how they'll control the world and what's out there in space, not just low Earth orbit. And like my President Doug Trump said too, also, people, not forget this, that the Space Force was not going to be initiated just to help protect us from here, from missiles and our satellites, from threats here on Earth, but from the threats coming from deep space. Wake up. He told General Dunford, good luck, go get it. I say go get what? The bigger picture of what the validation and vindication of Dr. Gil Levin will lead us up to. The validation and vindication of what was also imaged in 1976, staring up at it with the eye following it across the sky, letting it know it's there, which obviously we have to overcome. And again, Vice President Mike Pence said this.
And here from this bridge to space, our nation will return to the moon, and we will put American boots on the face of Mars.
So therefore, after that concept, we have to understand, then what could it be from the threats coming from deep space that the Space Force is also being created for? And we'll get into that later. Well, let me get into this other article here. China opens up Mars camp for researchers, tourists, and plans to send rover to the Red Planet. Lunar exploration team is meanwhile preparing to share scientific data from the Jade Rabbit 2 spacecraft on the moon, chief designer of program says. Simulation based in tourist attraction launched by Qinghai on Friday. I'm sure I'm saying the names wrong and I don't give a shit. Just so you know. And you shouldn't either. They're not our friends. But China is stepping up its space exploration program with the opening of a Mars simulation camp and plans to send a rover to the Red Planet next year. It comes at a critical time for China when it's keen to demonstrate its progress in space exploration after it became the first country to land a spacecraft on the far side of the moon in January. And I will add also building militaristic islands in the Pacific, contesting us, drawing closer. Wake up, everybody. Theirs is not an agenda of exploration, but of dominance of the commie army. But Beijing plans to send another spacecraft, the Chang'e 5, to the moon at the end of this year, as well as a Mars rover in 2020, said Wu Weiren. Boy, we got ours, we got ESAs, and now we got the Chinese sending a rover to Mars in 2020. And yet, none of them are there to actually find the life. Just look for possible signs. Milking and bilking all of our millions while the Chinese have the opportunity to snake right in and be the ones to actually discover life, right? taking away the truth and the legacy away from a real American, Dr. Gil Levin. How many of you are pissed off at this? But we aim to change that. That's why all your people out there listening to this down through time who have enough time to sign this petition, Dr. Gil Levin's Martian Revelation Life Validation Campaign, in a couple weeks, and spread it far and wide. Friends and frenemies alike. Show hosts, show hostesses, doesn't matter. We have to make our fate now. And if you don't, you deserve what would happen to us. I know. What do I know? I'm crazy. Wu was also positive about the continued progress of Jade Rabbit 2, the rover that is still on the moon, adding that China's lunar program had been carried out very well. Yes, they're taunting it. I told you. Their technology appears to be sound. The race is on. Wake up. And you're worried about trans testicles and pedophiles and other things out there, and Islamists, and the degradation of our borders. Take our nation back. Do what we must to secure what we must, because it's being taken from us to where the Chinese will take not only the head start, they will actually win. If we fall, they win. And then think what the world will become with them in the lead, and them gaining what's to be had out there, and what that'll mean for us here on the earth, using it. This is a new day and a new age, not the type of new age, the hug a tree, become a guru. No. To embrace the Martian revelation that's upon us all now. It's time to grow some nuts. And we could do it. As long as we take this nation back. And my President Thug Trump actually knows what's going on. And he tried to tell us along with Vice President Mike Pence, as alluded to. But anyway, for the past few days and nights, we have obtained a lot of scientific data, which we have recently been preparing to share with the rest of the world. Yeah, right, said Wu on the opening day of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Commie Conference in Beijing last Sunday. Internationally, there have been more than 120 attempts at lunar exploration, while we have carried it out only 5 times. We started late, but the starting point was advanced, Wu said. Don't you see it? He just said it. The gun fired, and they're rubbing it in our faces. We have invested less, but this has produced a lot of scientific and technological results. We launched only a few times, but each time was a success. Think about it as they start encroaching in on us, on the world, trying to choke us. If Hillary Clinton became president, we would have already been had EMP'd. We would have been red dawned already. With her blessing, because that's what these so-called commie American Democrat leaders has been leading us and is still trying to lead us to our own destruction. We need to take this nation back, and we need to win this space race, and we need to have the Space Force in order to help us do it. And us, our own signatures and our own balls to be able to be the ones whose boots are put on the face of Mars, who are the ones to announce life on Mars. But we need to have it answered now, not by the time we put our American boots there. Things have to go in a progression of lines. And one of them is to get the answer solved first and then send the boots. Not wasting billions and millions of our dollars, bringing us to turtleneck pace speed where we'll be many dead. Well, they will never even get to see or hear the news. Why? And we won't even be a nation then anyway. Think about it. But China does not disclose its annual space program spending, but it has been estimated at least $8 billion of US dollars, far less than the US, which has allocated $21.5 billion towards NASA's 2019 budget. Again, they're spitting at us. They got the middle finger up at you. They got their legs up with the foot pointed like the crane there, and the Karate Kid ready to kick you in the balls again. But last Friday, China opened a Mars simulation camp for researchers and tourists in the remote northwest province of Qinghai, China, News Science reported. The camp and tourist attraction is also designed to tap into the Chinese public's thirst for science fiction, as well as should be our thirst. No, instead we got Pedo-wood and trans testicles and commies and Islamists trying to come here and take away all that. Giving us, we the people, who need to not give up our guns, which they're also trying to take from us. This goes into a whole different type of show altogether. But I'm telling the truth here, and we got to stand and fight it all, because it's all relevant. But anyway, it comes as China's soft power is rising in this area with the recent box office success of the blockbuster The Wandering Earth and the global popularity of Chinese sci-fi author Liu Cixin, who wrote the novel that the film is based on. Spanning 80 acres, the base is situated 37 miles from the town of Linghu, near the upper reaches of the Qinghai Tibet Plateau, an arid desert region dubbed the place on Earth that is most unlike being on Earth, according to camp manager Gao Zhongying. Well, of course, it's being the most unlike being anywhere on Earth, because you're all commies with re-education camps and credit scores that takes away people's freedoms to even move. Let this be known, I do not support the Chinese commie government and any of those people that stand for them. They are our enemies, and President Trump knows this and is walking a tightrope. And Xi Jinping knows this. But anyway, the largely uninhabited area's terrain is the most similar to Mars of anywhere in China, so it was developed for research and tourism purposes, according to Pan Guohui, the director of China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation's Cultural and Creative Unit. It provides a scientific means for state research on Mars, while at the same time it establishes and nurtures the next generation's passion for aerospace, deep space exploration, and Mars exploration, Pan told China News Service. They're prepping their public and people that follow them. But the base is separated into a Mars landing simulation and a fully enclosed Mars camp area with a mix of tent and cabin accommodation for up to 160 people to have a fully immersive experience of life on Mars. The construction style of the camp also mimics the future living environment of humans who move to Mars. Gao was quoted as saying, "The buildings include a central headquarters and Mars cabins to give visitors a sense of immersion to let them experience the challenges of survival." Construction on the project began in June of 2018 with an investment of about $22.36 million US, Guo said. But the Mars Village was originally proposed by the local government in 2017 as a cultural and educational center for science, popular science, and science fiction, according to Ma Wingwu, a member of the Mingnai City Committee, which oversees Linghu. High-profile scientist Liu Cixin in 2017 stressed that the base would be first and foremost a Mars exploration-themed tourist site and not a serious training ground for future Mars astronauts. But Liu, a specialist in lunar and deep space exploration at the Chinese Academy of Sciences, said it was too early to claim the location as a scientific research base since its surroundings have not been thoroughly analyzed for scientific purposes. But he added that it could be used for certain outdoor scientific experiments. But other countries have set up similar bases that simulate life on Mars or the journey to the Red Planet. In 2015, a study funded by NASA allowed 6 researchers to live in a Martian habitat in Hawaii for a year, while in 2010/11, a group of volunteers, including one Chinese, lived in a Suedo spaceship in Moscow for 520 days, the estimated time it would take to travel from Earth to Mars and back again. Again, people, wake up! This is serious shit. At least now this brings us to some good news. We're showing some hope. Hope and change, change and hope. But the right kind, not the commie American kind. We come up to this article put forth yesterday from the Associated Free Press. SpaceX capsule back on Earth, paving the way for new manned U.S. flights. That's right. Last week we talked about how SpaceX's vehicle was going to go up to the ISS. So SpaceX's Crew Dragon capsule splashed down in the Atlantic Ocean yesterday, completing a NASA demonstration mission that paves way for the resumption of manned space flights from the United States. After hours of suspense, the Dragon spacecraft touched down at 8:45 a.m., some 230 miles off the coast of the U.S. state of Florida. The 7C capsule brought its crew of one test dummy back to Earth, named Ripley, in the same way the American astronauts returned to the planet in the Apollo era in the 1960s and 1970s before the 1981-2011 Space Shuttle program. Again, this is just a revamped up Apollo. But anyway, NASA TV footage showed the capsule drifting down into the ocean. Its descent slowed by its 4 main orange and white parachutes, which gently folded into the water around it as boats sped toward the site. Pending the analysis of flight data, everything indicated that SpaceX, founded in 2002 by Elon Musk, had passed its test from beginning to end, a result that drew widespread praise. And that is good, because again, I and listeners of this show could appreciate, I support wholeheartedly the balls of Elon Musk. But NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine hailed the splashdown, saying it marked another milestone in a new era of spaceflight. The head of the Russian space agency, Roscosmos, sent his congratulations via Twitter to his dear colleagues Jim Bridenstine and Elon Musk. And former President Barack Obama noted that it was his government that launched the commercialization of astronaut space transport. Ha ha! This dickhead's still trying to capture some gleam of his presidency, like he was really relevant. But he was more irrelevant to it and most relevant to the destruction of this nation. He's a commie American Islamic homo traitor. But anyway, we invested in the commercial crew program to strengthen the U.S. space program for the long haul. And it's great to see that happening, he tweeted. Always trying to glean praises of things that he did not accomplish. This guy's something else. But launched on March 2nd from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, Dragon docked at ISS the following day before successfully undocking yesterday some 250 miles over Sudan. The re-entry into Earth's atmosphere tested the vehicle's heat shield for the first time, and Elon Musk had previously said that the phase was probably his biggest concern. Even though the capsule came back to Earth looking like a toasted marshmallow, in the words of SpaceX engineer Kate Tice, the heat shield held. While Dragon's crew member was a dummy named Ripley this time, the mission sets the stage for a manned flight, which will see 2 U.S. astronauts book a return trip to the ISS. In June, the capsule's in-flight abort system will be put to the test. The rocket will take off without human passengers, after which the capsule will eject using its own engines and return safely in the simulation of an incident. I don't think we saw really anything in the mission so far, and we've got to do the data reviews. That would preclude us having the crewed mission later this year, Steve Stitch, Deputy Program Manager at NASA, said yesterday. But separately, Boeing is scheduled to carry out an unmanned demo mission in April of its Starliner capsule. Both systems must give NASA 2 independent means, and at a lower cost than that of the Space Shuttle program, to access the ISS by 2020. The SpaceX mission represents the first private venture to the ISS, as well as the first time a space vessel capable of carrying people was launched by the United States in 8 years. Again, that Obama is coming out trying to steal praise for the victory of this mission. But Dragon also marks a return to a vintage format. It is the first U.S. capsule since the pioneering Apollo program. Capsules have no wings and fall to Earth. Their descent slowed only by parachutes, much like the Russian Soyuz craft, which lands in the steppes of Kazakhstan. The last generation of U.S. spacecraft, the space shuttles, landed like airplanes. Shuttles took American astronauts to space from 1981 to 2011, but their cost proved prohibitive, while 2 of the original 4 craft had catastrophic accidents, killing 14 crew members. Until SpaceX and Boeing are certified by NASA, however, Russia will continue to be the only country taking humans to the ISS. NASA buys seats for its astronauts who train with their Russian cosmonaut counterparts. So, I don't know why they just don't make a craft that could go up there with its wings like the shuttle, leave the atmosphere, go out into space, do its thing, and then come back and land again. I don't know why. So this brings us to this next piece of news. This one was put forth Wednesday from Foxtrot Alpha. If the Space Force won't fight aliens, who the hell will? By Kyle Mizokami. It's better than Mile Izakami. But anyway, late last week, military news site Task and Purpose confirmed the disturbing fact. The newly created U.S. Space Force has no intention on fighting aliens. Yeah, right. That's why President Trump said the danger is coming from deep space and the threats by Ronald Reagan in the past. But anyway, despite the recent uptick of military UFO sightings, the Pentagon appears uninterested, at least officially, in the possibility of hostile aliens. Right. That's why they have been recently found out. We were just discussing even last week of the Pentagon and the millions of dollars that was in a program investigating UFOs. But let's continue to see how far this spin goes. But if an alien invasion does take place, which arm of the Pentagon would respond? The answer, probably all of them. During a recent Pentagon roundtable, Task and Purposes Pentagon reporter Jeff Skogel asked if the Space Force is concerned about threats posed by extraterrestrial intelligence. The official answer he got back? No. Skogel's question was asked with tongue firmly planted in his cheek, but the revelation last year, again, that the U.S. Navy fighter jets encountered alleged UFO craft in 2004 and again in 2015, in both instances appearing on radar and leaving behind video evidence, makes one wonder. But back to the article. If the unidentified flying objects described by Navy pilots, as well as military and civilian personnel for the past 70 years, are really of extraterrestrial origin and unfriendly, how would the Pentagon deal with them? If UFOs suddenly descended from the skies, toasting the Statue of Liberty, the Great Mall of America, and the Golden Gate Bridge with death rays, the Pentagon would need to convene some sort of study group to quickly determine what type of threat it was dealing with. If that happens, forget the Air Force. Ironically, the service that would most likely take the lead is in fact the U.S. Navy. Why the Navy? Aliens would likely come from vast distances, traveling light years in long-distance voyages to smash puny humans. The U.S. Navy is unique among the services in planning similar, though much, much shorter voyages. Both submarines and UFOs deal with pressure. In the case of submarines, the pressure is on the outside, while in space, the pressure is on the inside of the vehicle. From an operational and technical standpoint, aliens and sailors have a few things in common. There are other reasons the Navy might take the lead, though. 71% of the Earth's surface is covered by water, and if aliens operated from the water, remember the 2004 sighting included reports of a 737-sized object on the surface of the ocean. The Navy is unique in having manned aircraft, surface ships, and submarines prowling above, on, and below the surface of the ocean. The Navy could also sail to the most remote locations in the world's oceans, establishing a military presence for weeks or months on end to investigate and monitor for enemy activity. The Air Force could operate against aliens, but the service's fighters and bombers could only remain on station for mere minutes or hours before returning to base. Against a terrestrial threat, this isn't really a big deal, but against an alien threat we know nothing about, and according to the 2004 incident, theoretically capable of traveling extraordinary distances in a blink of an eye, such a force will be less useful. If humans could lure aliens into a set-piece battle, the Air Force could bring a lot of firepower, but how one lures aliens into battle is anyone's guess. In the meantime, the Space Force, nestled under the control of the U.S. Air Force, would contribute to the alien war by maintaining the U.S. military's network of position, navigation, and timing, GPS satellites, communication satellites, and other space-based assets. The Army would be the service responsible if aliens attempted a landing in the U.S., or presumably one of our allies. The Army's 10 combat divisions would spring into action, attempting to destroy the aliens with fire and maneuver. It would be in many ways similar to countering an airborne landing, with the Army attempting to destroy the aliens' landing zone and prevent the flow of alien reinforcements. The Marines could also get in on the alien fighting, particularly overseas in Asia, Europe, or even the Middle East. Though one would like to think aliens would be smart enough to avoid that region and the prospect of their own 18-year war altogether. Of course, all of this is contingent on the U.S. military being on par with alien technology, which frankly is extremely unlikely. The universe is billions of years old, and other races could have had a head start of 1 million years or more on us, and certainly any species capable of interstellar flight is far more technologically advanced. Consider that a handful of 21st century tanks could crush an army from the 11th century, or even the 19th century for that matter. Even a difference of 1,000 years would be ample enough to ensure humanity's defeat from even a minor alien expedition, hunting trip, bachelor party. If aliens do exist, ultimately it may not matter if they are hostile or not. our destruction at their hands will be about as inevitable as destruction from an extinction-level meteor impact. They could even be friendly. The combination of advanced, destructive technology and violent tendencies leading to intelligent life self-screening itself from interstellar travel. That would be bad news for humanity. The UFOs that people are seeing could even be top U.S. government craft. The aliens could therefore be us. In the end, maybe it doesn't matter if the Pentagon has a plan to fight aliens after all. But then again, maybe they do, especially if we're seeing UFOs flying around at high speeds and doing these weird things that they by chance are ours. Then I think they're thinking about it and they're working on the problem. Again, like President Trump said, the threat is coming from deep space. That's the most important for us to create the Space Force of we the people. So I guess on that note, there's some things to go over there to chew on and to contemplate. But as listeners to this show could appreciate, we have a motto here. Pack 'em and smoke 'em, because you're going to need 'em when we come back and introduce our guest, Mr. Jonathan J. Womack.
I'll be back.
Don't run. We are your friends.
The question for life on Mars has been answered in 1976. But ever since then, NASA's not wanted to go back and replicate those tests. Instead, they'd rather go search for signs of life instead of actually finding it. Let's all make NASA change their policy and letting them know that we demand them on the upcoming Martian rovers of the Mars Rover 2020 and the ExoMars rover. We would like Dr. Gil Levin's life detection controlled label release experiments on board those rovers. It is about time. Is it about our fate? Please join the Dr. Gil Levin's Martian Revelation Life Validation Campaign. Please go to www.thefacesofmars.com and scroll down the page and click on the glowing, blinking link for Dr. Gil. President Trump's desk, as well as the chair of the National Space Council, Vice President Pence. Please join the Martian Revelation, and please help Dr. Gil Levin in his quest for validation and vindication of life on Mars.
Nowhere to go.
superheroes. We're going to get into an interesting subject tonight with our guest, Mr. Jonathan J. Womack. But before that, please, everybody, I want to remind you.
Go to
thefacesofmars.com.
That's www.thefacesofmars.com.
Read the info for tonight's guest, as well as click on his links there. And the link to his book, Old Souls, as well as to his website, which is jonathanwomack.com. And also, I'd like you all to scroll down the page some and see more about Dr. Gillivan's Martian Revelation Life Validation Campaign. You can see a video there of him talking about the control label release experiment that details where he's speaking on the video that is shown there. That details that life was discovered on Mars in 1976. Below that, there's a link to an interview that I had done with him from May 26th of 2018. And under that will be the petition information page. So click on the image for the Life on Mars image, and that'll bring you to that. And under that, check out Mars watcher Maureen Marcus and an amazing find that she put forth in the region of Utopia Planitia, Mars, not too far from the Viking 2 landing site. So, and what it shows, one might glance at it real quick and think, oh, those are craters, yeah? Well, you know what? Craters don't have right angles and it looks like artistically fashioned edges and rims. And even the features around it do not look natural, per se. You have to look close. Again, pack 'em and smoke 'em, the motto on this show. But Maureen also had focused in a little bit on one of these so-called craters. And in it, you can see the geometry and the right angles. It looks like structurings. It reminds you of some you see down there in Mesoamerica. All right. So that's pretty amazing. And under that, you'll see Red Planet Mars 1952 movie. Watch it. Very interesting. They even predict the flat screen TV on the wall. Yes, indeed. So, and keep scrolling. You'll see the UFO Diaries, Cydonia. Check that out, as well as image captures from it to help make the bigger picture, to create a bigger picture conversation that's yet to happen from it. Well, we also have the preliminary report of the UFO Diaries in the Faces of Mars by Dr. John Brandenburg, seen on that page. And also, don't forget, again, bag 'em and smoke 'em for later on. Richard Hoagland's unofficial disclosure video. You'll see it there with Jesse saying science bitch. All right. And under that, you look at other videos and the face of Mars and whatnot. And so that being said, everybody, MarsRevealer@gmail.com. MarsRevealer@gmail.com is the place to email me. So let's introduce our guest, Mr. Jonathan J. Womack. And there's many questions of spirituality, faith, the brevity of life, and what becomes of us after death are enduring questions for the ages. Jonathan Womack began leaving his body in the fall of 1965 at the age of 6. Since then, John has dedicated his life to raising awareness of the spirit world and the nature of our earthbound journeys. His fantasy novels and television projects reflect his assertions that surviving physical death is an automatic process and karma is the universal law. In addition to guiding confused souls toward the light, Jonathan has had a positive impact on people searching for the meaning in their lives and with parents dealing with the loss of a child. Today, after more than half a century of out-of-body experiences, or OBEs, John's media company, Mind World Entertainment, is producing a 1-hour pilot for a planned series, OBE, the Out-of-Body Experience, which focuses on all things metaphysical. And tonight we're going to focus on a book that he had sent me called Old Souls. And that's what I was describing earlier at the beginning of the show. What if our souls were from some other world that we may not even have the memories of in our conjectural reality now, in our waking state now? That what if alien invasions could come by type of beings that take over the body? Come into you for different souls from other worlds, maybe even from Mars, as the book that he wrote, Old Souls, goes back to Mars, tying in the very strong scenario of the planetary model of the exploded planet hypothesis, that it was once a living, thriving world with Mars as one of its moons. And, well, things happen and war ensued. That would connect to the Dr. John Brandenburg scenario of nuclear weapons being detonated on Mars. That was also discovered in 1976. Now think about that. That's another thing. We have life kicking Dr. Gill in the balls. We have the face of Mars kicking us all in the balls. And we also have the signature for nuclear weaponry being detonated on Mars. And most likely part of also the blame for what happened to Mars, as well as what's put forth in Jonathan Womack's book, Old Souls, of the scenario that happened in this ancient interplanetary war of the solar system. So he ties it together in a good tale, into which is like comic book superhero type form, being based, I believe, on where his life and without a body experiences has obviously been a very big part in helping put this all together. And I'm not trying to speak for him, but by myself reading the book, I got a third left. I'm at chapter 20 now. So this is really interesting on where it's going. Because of the fact of the matter, aliens, in essence, Martians, could also be here. And therefore, not all of us, but in a way, yet all of us, are part of the old souls from that world. I mean, we can't rule it out. It's not, I mean, we got interdimensional beings coming in and out. People accept that, matching up with scriptural models of what demons or even fallen angels are. And I know there's differences between them, but there's spirit beings that cross between dimensions. That has been also attributed to them. So all of these things have a possible connection and could possibly all lead to the same places. So that's what we're going to look at tonight with our guest, Mr. Jonathan J. Womack. And John, hopefully you're on with us, and thank you very much for being here. And hopefully I didn't misspeak about what my gist is on this, because I find it interesting, and the concept that you bring forth to help bring this model out as a working hypothesis, as what science has been leading us anyway for all these years is leading us to see. So again, thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me, Gary. And that's been my approach from the beginning, was with my out-of-body experiences. I thought I could write a book that just lists my experiences and talk about them, or I could couch it into a fiction novel like A Cry for a Hero was my first book, and make it cool and interesting so people are not only entertained, but then their thoughts are provoked and they think about life after death and things like that. And excuse me. The same is true with my book Old Souls. I could have written a dissertation with a whole bunch of photos and things, but I thought, it's more fun to put it into. What's that?
With regards to Old Souls, you mean?
Old Souls, that's right. Yes. I study. I've been looking at Mars since the face was revealed back in the 70s, and pretty disappointed that we're at the point we're at now. I thought we'd be much further along, and yeah. So I decided to put my take on Mars into a entertaining fiction book, action, adventure, romance, and but that would also make people who are not into studying Mars maybe get into it or consider the possibility that there could be something to the story.
Exactly, because again, it's built on a scientific model where it's been leading, and where mainstream is also starting to come around to have to, publicly accept and state, there's something to all this. There was a fifth planet. The asteroids belt's there now. We may or may not be, our planet may or may not be part of the chunk from it. But the one way to tell for sure in that regard, go start testing the asteroids. I bet you 9 times out of 10, they're the same elements as here on Earth, because if this was a chunk of that planet, it only goes to make sense, right? But and those beings, the Anunnaki, probably knew this. But now, regarding to that fact of there being a planet, now you're envisioning a civilization upon that world, obviously pre-Adamite, pre-Earthen, even if we go by that we're the chunk of it model or not. Even before then, it was long before we came around, apparently, at least in our memorable history, right? So now with that regard, Mars was a moon of that world, and that also fits Dr. Tom Van Flanderen's theory, but he stated that there was also another moon that was also destroyed, and that impacted Mars also. But that doesn't mean that Mars was not a moon of that world also. It was a pretty sizable planet that could have easily had Mars and another body orbiting it's that planet, correct? And both worlds would have had the civilization going to and fro, but then something happened. And with the model of even where today's research goes, though many mainstreamers don't want to admit it, but they talk about it, believe me, behind closed doors, of the possible battle, the war in the heavens, the scriptures, the war in the heavens that took place, and ultimately what helped decimate Mars and the civilization there. Obviously, from this explosion, people would just like to assert. But then we have the nuclear findings, the nuclear detonation of weaponry findings from Viking, that only non-natural nuclear detonation explosions would create, Xenon 129, was found also in 1976. Doesn't that trip you out, John, that 3 of those, life on Mars, Dr. Gill, kicked in the nuts, the face of Cydonia, we're all kicked in the nuts, and the nuclear, which was kept really hush, obviously. I mean, do you find that fascinating and also, in a way, kind of a basis for setting up for the story for you to be able to put together, again, of the science that's already there?
Well, the Anunnaki, or, the New World Order went into high gear in 76. When the face of Mars and some of these other things came out, because they're aware of the sacred science, as it's often called, and they know that the 2012 alignment is coming, and they are preparing for it. And the good guys aren't really prepping for it so much, because not that many people are awake in 76. But yeah, it's all about the War of 2012, and a new energy is born during this galactic alignment. And depending on how the people on the sentient beings on whatever planet it is, depending on how they use that energy in a subconscious way, will determine the future of that planet. It can be for a very long time now. We've seen the last 2,000 years have been crappy. There was a civilization on Earth that was doing pretty well. They had pyramids around the planet. The Earth grid was rocking and rolling. They had this ancient wireless tech and all kinds of technology, and then that all went to hell in a handbasket. So,
and that could be attributed to that proposed war too, because again, back to the science imagery and data, and obviously what it shows, at least to those of us who can see and freely speculate here on this show and in the imagineering departments of their minds, that, wow, a lot of this, that could all be from a potential war as well as a planet exploding, correct? So that's why I'm fascinated with how you stitch this book together, Old Souls. Everyone, again, on the facesofmars.com, click on that book cover and get that book. It's worth the read. And also, he has a 3-book deal, I believe, in an ebook format that also I should check out myself. Now, are those prequels or are those going to order, or are those just separate books, sir?
2 of my books, well, the first book, A Cry for a Hero, is my out-of-body superhero. Then I wrote The Dog Man Cometh, which is kind of like Tarzan in the Montana mountains. And the 3rd book was Old Souls. And then I decided it's time to start writing the sequel. So I just, Ram I Am came out in December. That's the sequel to A Cry for a Hero. And yeah, now I haven't started a sequel for Old Souls. The end of the book leaves it open. and I have a story in mind, and it kind of
You're gonna leave us on a cliffhanger, and I'm in chapter 20.
Oh yeah.
All right, so I look forward to that. I can imagine what what I got left. I mean, so let alone a whole nother book. That would be awesome, based upon I'm really into this stuff, and especially science fiction, and like you said earlier, science faction. And I like how you turn that. I hope that's not my dog running around out there. Damn it! But anyway, sorry about that. But yeah, science faction, and the way that you're able to put these stories together, and again, it all goes back to the souls and out of body experience. I guess it obviously had so much impact, like you said, on creating this. Where and how did this begin for you? Though we kind of just mentioned it a little in the intro, since you were 6 and stuff. Now, has it led you to any of these to be able to make it even easier to attribute this all, like as a form of research, even to spell out even a story? Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, sure, of course. That's behind all of it.
Nice. So it all started happening when you were 6. What type of what happens? And what do you know that you're out of your body?
Well, with me, I had watched an episode of Lost in Space. It was a new show. It's episode 5. There were giants in the earth, and there was a 50-foot cyclops that is, terrorizing the Robinson family. And I was really scared I was terrified that, this huge beast could exist. I had just turned 6, and a few weeks before, I'd started kindergarten class, and the teacher would hand out a wand, and the student would tap you on the forehead, so you lay down on the mat in the afternoon to take a nap. It was the magic wand, So they touched the wand to your forehead, and that's when I first felt the vibrations. And then a few weeks later, watching Lost in Space, I went to bed afterwards. I was very scared, concerned, and I heard these, what I thought were footsteps of this cyclops coming down the street, but it was my heartbeat in my ear. If it's real quiet when you're lying down, you can hear your heartbeat in your ear. So
yes,
I was very scared. I thought the monster's coming, and he's coming up the driveway. Now he's coming into the house. He shrank down so he could fit into the house and get me. My brothers are asleep in the room. I'm the only one awake. They're safe, but I'm awake, so I'm like in the monster's, domain and vulnerable, therefore. So,
as you were dreaming now, as you drifted off to sleep for the nap, you mean?
No, I'm wide awake.
You mean the giant literally came in the room?
No, I'm imagining it in my mind. He's coming.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm totally
so
imagining this.
Get yourself out of your body.
I scared myself to death. So by the time he's coming in the room, I said to myself, "Don't play dead. Be dead. Because if he has to believe it, or I'll suffer this horrible death. I really have to be dead." So that's what I said to him. Be dead. Be dead.
We see mice do lot with cats, and then the cat would look back at it and lay back down real quick. The cat looks away to look up at the cat. The cat lay back down real quick as the cat looks back. Cat walks away, he takes off. That's a good analogy. So your soul took off.
Yeah, I got out of bed once the danger passed, and I was very relieved and pretty happy. I cheated death, and then I saw somebody lying in my bed, and I realized it was me. I experienced a dual consciousness for the first time. I could feel myself, part of myself, still left behind in my body to keep it alive. But yeah, I could feel myself lying on the bed.
Like a tether?
And then at the same time, I'm standing next to the bed looking down at myself. And I can feel myself in both places simultaneously.
Wow.
So that's a pretty cool thing, yes. And then years later, I discovered the triple consciousness. And I've read others who have had this happen too, in other books like Robert Monroe and a few others, where you go out of body and then you rotate out of yourself 360 degrees. You're out of phase with your astral body now, and you end up with this third consciousness that is a higher, more focused version of you. It's pretty interesting, but you can feel part of yourself in your astral body and another part in your physical body still in bed. You've got three-way, because part of you is driving all three of these vehicles, you know. So, and it's another interesting thing for a book that I'm working on is called Aspect, where when a soul gets older and more evolved and has more energy, you have plenty of energy to run a few human bodies at the same time.
Really?
Yeah, and so there's a lot of folks on Earth right now that have aspects. There's another, you know, let's say President Trump, for example. Let's say he has an aspect. It could be a woman in Africa doing something, or it could be, you know, an Australian Aborigine, or it could be a Korean general, or, you know, it could be anybody. You don't know who it is. And in my book, an investigator meets a guy. He meets this woman, a news reporter, and there's something weird between them. You know, they kind of hit it off, and it turns out that they are aspects. You know, they're one soul split into two and sent to Earth in two different bodies to attend school. You know, you can do that. Some even do three bodies at once.
Now, going into three already alive bodies, not like going into three newborns to be born.
Three newborns. Correct.
All right. That can make a very, very big difference, because that's my point earlier I was trying to make, as if there's intelligent beings out there, we know it's transdimensional, interdimensional beings, yada, yada, you know, and demonic spiritual forces, yada, yada, which all may be connected of that kind, if that makes sense, of their kind being created, like we are our kind, and having that ability to tether on, as it was, even to our world, to come here. Therefore, the alien invasion has already been happening and going on in that light, if we truly speculate of that possibility, huh?
Invasion.
Wow. It could, depending on who it is and what it is and what their intents are. The fact of the matter is, an ability to go to split their souls and go into other bodies. Remember, that kind of reminds me of what King Holy B. Jesus said. When he was confronted by a demoniac, who Christ said, go into the pigs and run into the sea. Why? Because there were legion. There were many within the one. So many could be within the one as well as split up and be in multiple parties, because then they went into pigs. I think that kind of connects to that analogy, or am I off base there? Does that make sense?
Possibly. I mean, aliens certainly could inhabit your body. I mean, the thing about the advanced aliens, I direct people to a favorite video of mine, the Tether incident from NASA, because you can see the Dropa stones, or the Dropa ships, I should say. They're 5 miles wide. They have a black hole at the center of them, and a notch at the edge. You know, the disc.
Like the Dropa disc. Yep.
The Dropa disc. They're Dropa ships, and they're translucent. You can see through them. You can also see them pulsing. That's the black hole working, and what they've learned to do is to transpose matter and energy back and forth. You know, it's two manifestations of one force, and
God, if their souls are within them.
What's that?
What if their souls are within them?
Well,
does that make sense? Wait, to me it does. By what you just said. All right, go ahead, sir. I'm just thinking. I mean,
they have souls. Yes, they have souls, but they live very long, because what they're able to, they build a ship, they go in the ship, they turn the ship and themselves into pure energy. Now they can travel around the galaxy very quickly, like, you can cross the galaxy in a long rush, that kind of thing, when you're energy. It's just like when you're out of body, I can travel at the speed of thought. So that means I can fly to New Brunswick in a slow rush, or I can pick out that star over there, and we're going to do take a little longer, 10 seconds maybe to get there, kind of thing. It's, you're traveling unlimited by the physical laws. I mean, light, the speed of light becomes, like I write in A Cry for a Hero, is a broken down Model T Ford. Because now you can travel, so the galaxy becomes a very small place to these aliens. So it's kind of like, going into Boston, our galaxy, or New York City. It's teeming with life. We're in their domain, where there's no invasion because, they've made all this, and we're just another species to come along in a long line. And we're the leftovers or descendants of this cosmic war, and we're still stuck in the mud. But hopefully, with this 2012 war, if we win it, I believe not revelation, but when they come out with all this, that's going to happen.
You mentioned the 2012 war, but it's past 2012 now. Do you mean of the shifting of the dimension, or the other? Because remember, they were saying the apocalypse, but apocalypse is, you chose the right word. It means revelation.
Yeah, I was trying to think of the word disclosure. I think disclosure will happen if we win the war, because the alignment happened in December of 2012.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean the war is lost or won on that day. It's something that takes place over a good long time, because we're talking about not just the physical plane, but also like the thought cloud that circles the earth, this fog of thought generated by the populace. And that affects the physical world, just like your aura is attached to your body or intermingled with your body. So this collective consciousness is being affected all the time by people's thoughts and prayers. That's why the Muslims pray 5 times a day, and they point towards the cube in Mecca, the Kaaba cube. It's a big,
the faith rock.
Yeah, and they walk around it. It's a torsion engine.
True.
They circle it, and you get all those people walking around there, and they have a thought in their mind. So physically, they're adding to the torsion engine, they're driving it, and mentally or metaphysically, they're also driving the engine. It's working on multiple levels.
Do you think that convection, that turning, that torsion, could be into a conduit based upon the type of thoughts we know that they throw off, and therefore, if that's that type of thoughts, that they would pull in like-minded souls that are drawn to that, whereas if something else was being done in like manner, but with different type of thoughts of good things, then it would draw in that type of souls. Right, that makes sense then. All right. Now that's incredible. So maybe that's going on, and that could also be the mechanism to help them come into this world, or is that not needed because of who and what they're able to do to begin with anyway? But I find that fascinating. Sorry if I took time to describe that. It just has me thinking.
Yeah. Repeat your question, because I'm not sure I understand it.
All right. Now, we know how the Muslims act and think. You said it's a working torsion engine. Mm-hmm. Now, but based using their thoughts, the type of thoughts, we know what the type of thoughts they have. Therefore, that engine would be connecting and attracting the souls that think along those same type of thoughts, whereas, let's say, people, or for lack of a better term, people's souls, would not go to it if they are different, like they go to a different type of torsion field where it's not the Islamic type of thoughts, like good versus evil. Evil cannot, light cannot, light and dark type thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that have to be there as a mechanism to bring them into this world or plane into us, or is that?
Oh, I see. No, that's.
I'm trying to see.
Yeah, your life is the main thing is you're at school, so your goals and mission as a soul, that's what drives your lives and what time period you're going to be in, who your parents are, your financial situation, male or female. I had a scene in there with in Old Souls where it's talking about Jonah Trek picking out his most recent life, and he chose the life of a soldier because he felt it would give him the most experiential growth, being in combat and war. It's very intense, and it would get his spirit grown at a more rapid rate than if he had some cushy life, as a rich kid in New York or something. But yeah, where I was telling somebody the other day that we can also be put on other planets, other schools, other spirit schools around the galaxy, where the alpha creatures are, cloud beings or some ocean critter that is the top dog on the planet. And our spirit guides will put us there if we really screw up and we need some hardcore, attitude adjustment. They just may well put us on another planet with these other creatures, and then we'll come back to Earth and we'll live some more lives as human and this kind of thing. But it's all about going to school, and eventually, after 10,000 lives, it could be, we graduate.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did see that scenario being painted in Old Souls there of that description, and I find that also fascinating because, like you said, 10,000 times, all right, go back around the mountain again, and
it's a lot.
Yeah, it is, and it could be also more depending on the stubbornness of the soul, I guess, or the slow learnership.
Well, there's some that refuse to progress, and what they end up doing is kind of like in Old Souls, the New World Order. They're kind of like they're super villains.
Right.
Really evil. And
those are the ones that I was saying that would be attracted to the Islamic type of thought. What with that generation machine, it's not of good, pure, holy thoughts. It's of that thought to where supervillains would be attracted. Rather, superheroes would be attracted to a different vortex. They wouldn't be attracted to that one. That's what I was trying to mean. You know what I mean? The yin and the yang, light and the dark.
Yeah. And then the point I want to mention is that some of these souls refuse to advance, and they will come into another life, and your goal is to evolve, and then when they get here, they continue to be evil or whatever. They murder and hurt people, and they're just So that powers them up in a way. I mean, they do evolve and they become more powerful. Their energy grows, but they just stay evil. And then there comes a point where their spirit guide steps in and says, "All right, that's it. You're going back to like kindergarten on some other planet. We got a lot of work to do." But there's souls that are stubborn, refuse to. They're really consumed with the lust for power, like I said, murder, killing someone, the kind of power that brings, just all the bad things of humanity.
And especially if they don't like humanity, You know, if we consider the scriptural aspects to that, that's very implicating. And I don't think it's far-fetched. I really don't, considering that now and how it may tie to all this. Now, have you learned or seen those type of things while in your OBE states over the years, or or based on any memories or happenings with you or that you met or encountered within? And maybe your writings, if you don't remember, maybe like Jonah Trek there, it was a catalyst that enables them to come out. But it's like it's still that the body is kept in a stupor while the identity of the soul is the one coming through.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like Jonah Trek's actually that dude. He's just a shell being housed by that spirit, by that or that being.
Yeah, that personality, yeah, that was alive on Mars long ago, and now he's been reincarnated on Earth. And that's a good example. Jonah Trek's soul refuses to, well, he doesn't refuse, he can't move past terrible happening on Mars, and his soul is just so pained and inconsolable over what happened. It cannot see any way through it.
Right, and I just seen what happened to him too. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that's where I'm at, and that made it more interesting to think, and it got me thinking. Okay, so if these beings, you would hope that they give some shit about you, or they'll dash you upon the rocks like they did with the pigs and run into the sea. You know what I'm saying? And it reminds me of Stargate, the enemy. What was the enemy's name again? Not the Gwa. That was some other show. But they're parasites, but they would force themselves upon, you know, the movie Stargate in the show. Mm-hmm. They would embed themselves with him by force. But then there was an opposing side, the Tok'ra, that would want to have communion with a mutual understanding of the host to allow it or not, even upon if it's going to die. It will not be like that dark-sided villain aspect that don't want to progress. They just want to keep taking hosts despite the life and feelings and rights of freedom for that host. I mean, so these supervillains are in essence like them, so people could have an analogy here, right?
That's a fair analogy, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just trying to, you know, conceive this all, because you said something interesting, and I don't mean to deviate. If we are too much, you just let me know, sir. I mean no disrespect. But you said something earlier. Vibrations.
Yes.
I've had what I had to call dream experiences, but there was definitely no dreams. But after these things happen, for me to stay sane, because me being slammed back into myself, slamming onto my bed, which obviously witnesses with that I never left my bed, you know, but yet, damn it, I had to have, because I was slammed back down on my bed. But no, I came to see that I was slammed into myself. Now, I didn't see myself. Now, here's the funny thing about the vibrations. Because during my experience, let's just say experiences, it would be like I'm put somewhere dark and maybe laying down, and all I hear and feel is vibration, like and vibration. And as it started to get slower, then ka-wham! And I thought for sure, I was like, what the hell? What was the vibration? Why would I be feeling the vibration? I come to realize that obviously I had a soul. Now I know what it means. And even scriptures that help me. I know what a soul is, or the spirit. Until one experiences it, then I think one can appreciate scriptures all the better. You know, and what issues like this story that you made based on this, I'm going to have to say it's a fact. But here's the thing, the fact that it told me was those who had me were able to slam me back in my body. That means they took me out of my body. I wasn't allowed to see myself. Maybe for me to come to the whoop-de-doo realization, sir, that's why I asked what it was like for you in the beginning. You got to see yourself. And I hear that from other people. I'm like, damn, what's wrong with me? Because that vibration, it was like a ship. Like you would be in a ship, even on the cruises. Have you ever took a cruise line, a cruise ship? You can feel the vibration of the engines and on the waves and the motors sometimes. And it was like that, but 1,000-fold. It was dark, and it felt like hours, but it was only a couple minutes. And then it was like, vroom, the vibration would slow down like it's coming to a stop. Not a complete stop. Next you know, ka-wham! And I thought my wife flew out of bed in the mirror. I was instantly awake. I was like, what the hell just happened? You know, and oh my God. And she, I made sure she was still there. How are you still here? She's like, what's wrong? And I was all sweating. And I said, hey, how are you not in the mirror and everything? Why didn't you, didn't you notice I was gone? You weren't gone. You were here all night. And I was like, I didn't want to admit that. I didn't want to admit it because that had me thrown off because I was thinking about it for hours, but all I kept thinking about was that vibration. Why would I feel a vibration if I shouldn't? But yet, during my whole experience, I was able to touch things. Even hands touched the people, let's say, for lack of a better term. How? What is that vibration? I guess I should just stop. What is that vibration? Do you know from your experiences? And should I be looking out for something?
Well, I just sent you a picture. It's from the pilot I'm doing, OBE, the out-of-body experience. And I recreated via 3D sets and avatars this, first experience of mine back on October 6th, 1965, where, the Cyclops comes and so forth. So you can actually watch that scene on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, Mind World Entertainment. It's a 20-minute scene, and it's the opening credits of the show. And I think it's pretty cool because the 3D allows me to, portray this. It's not easy to talk about it, but at least this gives me a way to kind of show it so that people can watch it and go, or like you remember the vibrations and experiences. I get that a lot where people say,
I remember a lot of things. Then there's a lot of things, and I was also held up. One person for each human emotion, and I was held up. There's no change, but I couldn't move, and everything limb was spread apart wide, and but there was no change. But each one that came to me, I would cry, and then they would taunt me for whatever human emotion I have. And then there was this single one in the middle, always calm between every human emotion they'd put me through. And what the hell was that about? And then calling me animal, shut up, animal. I didn't like that. I didn't like it at all. But yet the guy in the middle, he's all calm. And then in between each emotion, what do I see on Mars? What do I see on Mars? I was like, the only thing I could do is try to think of 3 things at once because I had a feeling my mind was being probed. I couldn't wake myself up. I was always great at doing that. And this was one whoop-de-doo. And that was a long line of them. But I just want to say this. What do you see on Mars? I was like, you're so advanced. You got me here. Oh, why don't you tell me, And what the hell did they want to know? What they want, and why was Mars such an issue between, and then I would be tortured or bring out this other human emotion from sexuality to pain to fear. Every human emotion that we possibly had, there was one of them. They would take turns, but always the one in the middle, the calm one, the friendly one, the one there to ease me between my emotions. And then for the next one, but then the last one, the animal. Shut up, animal. I don't like him. And I don't know who or what he was and what that was about, but there's a lot of things that I think I could remember, but coming back into my body, being slammed into my body, I immediately, and I still got this, I've written pages, but at the same time, memories are fading. And then I'm like, all right, but then here's ones I could hold on to because I just written this. It was like a race was on of what either I was being allowed to remember or fighting to try to keep the remember. Now, does any of that sound familiar to you? And again, what is the vibrating? What is the vibration I don't know, and I'm sorry I'm making a tangent on this, everyone, and John. It's just that, look, I have no face to save here, okay? This is my reality and where we are. It is on a destiny path. I'm making our fate. We're on another timeline. I'm phased back through time. Now, that madness aside, this is my reality, and things of which is connected to even that aspect of my reality, of my actual being in here as a reality. How is it that they're able to take me out? Did I go out on my own? Why didn't I see myself? Does any of this like sound familiar to at least that might have happened to others you might have known or tried to help? Does this sound familiar? Because I'm telling you, I can relate to some of the things. That's why maybe I enjoy it so much, because I'm looking for clues myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, the vibrations are the effect of going into a deep trance, and your body's going to sleep, and your heart slows to.
State? What about your soul state? Because obviously I was in my soul state. My body.
I'll get to that.
My body's in my bed. Obviously.
You're lying in bed. Your body. It's a mind awake, body asleep state.
Is that the tether connection?
There's a tether from your body to your soul, and if that tether breaks, you are not able to get back in your body. But as long as the tether is intact, you're good to go. You can come back to your body. So the vibrations signal the beginning of the the separation process. You get the vibrations. It lasts a minute or two. It's like you said. It's like a little electrical shock or a hum or something. And once that passes, then you are able to, pretty much you just sit up, and you'll sit, you'll sit up, but your body will stay in bed. And, at this point in my experience, a lot of time, I don't really get I haven't got the vibrations for, I would say, many years, because now they just come and go so quick, I don't even notice it. It just becomes, it's a natural process. So, like I was relating an experience the other day, and what happens is I'll be at my computer, I'll get a notion to go lay down north-south. You want your body to be on a north-south axis aligned with the earth.
Okay.
And so I get north-south, and I'm out in, less than a minute. I just kind of relax, close my eyes, a deep breath or two. And the vibrations happen so quick, it's just not it used to be a thing when I was starting out, but now it's a flash, I'm out. I get the beeper signal, danger signals, and the danger's there, and then I follow it to wherever it is. So one of the quickest separations I ever had was a couple of years ago, and I used the internet to try to find out where I was the night before, if something happened, and where the heck was I? So this one is interesting because it happened right in my backyard. I was napping in bed, and I live near an airport, and on the other side of me is a lake. So when they come in for a landing, they go right over this lake, and the lake is surrounded by homes. It's a lake community, and so I'm relaxed, and I hear this plane coming, and I just, my danger sense, the alarm goes off, and so I, in a quick flash, I'm out, and I dart out over the lake to catch this plane that is about to crash into the island. There's islands out there. You can go camping on them and stuff. And yeah, it was just a windy, gusty thing, and the guy was not that, well, it probably happens to everybody, but yeah, it was just the winds. I couldn't feel the winds when you're a soul, can't feel the wind, but you can tell that's what's going to happen. And he was trying to just get the plane up, and so he's either going to hit the island or some houses. And he was thinking the island is where he was going to go down. I mean, he could have, this guy could have crashed into my house.
Right.
It was on a direct line between him and the airport, So, yeah, I just gave him the push and got him to the airport. And the next morning I checked the paper, and I didn't see anything about any story about, any guy that almost crashed, or the guy just probably got out of his plane, went, thank you, Jesus, or whatever,
Right. And I literally did that during one of my experiences. Go ahead. So that's not far-fetched.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. And regardless, I think that the vibrating, I believe Mean Green might be attributing frequency. It's all about frequency, 7.83 hertz. Wait for it, bro. Spider sense. I don't know, but you know what? I just noticed that we're getting a lot of questions in here, which is a good thing. Maybe we'll take a couple of these questions and then go to a break. Mr. Womack, what do you think?
Sure.
All right. But, again, this is a fascinating subject. Hopefully I'm not steering off where you wanted to go. It's just because I think we have people listening to this discussion that maybe then they'll want to get that book. And those books, at least from Old Souls is concerned, and they'll dig in, and then, wow, because it's like paving the way for them. And then bringing the scientific model of our own scientific models of what's going on regards to Mars and everything, that'll lighten them. Maybe they will also join us, and as we fight for the truth of Mars and enjoy looking and exploring. But anyway, James on Facebook asked if the guest believes that lucid dreaming is a human trait to know that we are from another world. I think that might be a good question. Or like you said, you kept mentioning, sir, about napping or sleeping. Is that like some major tool to enable, and even for those beings from another world, James might be referring to? What is it about sleep? But go ahead, sir.
Well, lucid dreaming, yeah. I mean, there's a thing known as the dream of knowledge, where you're dreaming and you're kind of awake in the dream, and you see something that is out of place, and you kind of wake up in the dream. With me, what happened was I had been going out of body for some time, and over a year. I'm a little kid, and I was having trouble wetting the bed, and so I would hypnotize myself before bed, or just keep repeating, remember when you're in the dream. That's what would happen is I'd go to bed and have a dream, and then in the dream I have to pee, so then I would wet the bed and wake up. So I said, remember when you are in the dream and you have to pee, remind yourself, oh my gosh. So sure enough, one night after several attempts, and then one night I have to go to the bathroom. I go in the bathroom, I'm going to pee. And then I just went, wait a minute. Whoa. So I walk out of the bathroom. I walk over to the bedroom. I go in the bedroom. I walk over to my bed. There I am lying there asleep. I'm like, yep, I'm out. And I just, a lot of times you're not awake enough in the dream to quite be, fully awake. But
I wasn't mine. And
yeah,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So then at that point, I can project, because now I'm awake and I'm out, and then I can go just fly off. But yeah, you said, how do you know you're awake? And you definitely know when you're out, because you're wide awake just as we are now. Our conscious mind is taking part. That's the thing. Your conscious mind goes with the soul. if you can stay awake through the vibrations, a lot of times people fall asleep. They try to call the vibrations and you just kind of fall asleep and wake up later. But yeah, if you can keep your mind awake and the vibrations come and you find yourself out, yeah, now it's great because you can go exploring. You can explore the Earth or the galaxy. Or
you said it again. Vibrations come, and then you could explore that vibration thing. Okay, go ahead. I got
yeah,
it,
you can get out of your body. The separation effect is now completed now that the vibrations have cycled through. And now your soul, because your soul merges with your physical body, and it's a scientific process, it's an oscillation thing. So when the body dies and the soul goes out for good and doesn't come back, but while you're here, you can actually, everybody separates during sleep. You just don't remember it. The trick is to stay awake. And, for me, that first experience of being scared to death, I was very wide awake and when I scared myself to death. And when I got out of my body, I was wide awake and saw myself lying there and going, oh my gosh. So, but a year later after that, I was watching a new cartoon. It's called The Adventures of Superman, produced by Filmation. And they had a cartoon on there every week, the Superboy cartoon, him and Crypto.
Right.
So, yeah, they had like 2 Superman cartoons and then a Superboy cartoon. And I was pretty amazed because I had not met anybody that went out of body like me. The people I had told thought I was nuts. So here was this kid, Superman was too old like my dad or something, but the teenage Superboy, I was like, hey, I'm 7 at this point. Like, that's my guy. He's awesome. He has the dog. And so the next night when I go out of body, I just naturally, instead of looking like myself that I normally do, because you can look like whatever you want. You just think it, and that's what you look like. So, yeah, I look like Filmation's Superboy, and that's been my motif for 53 years. And now I look like Alex Ross Superman or Kurt Swan Superman, my 2 favorite artists.
Right.
But yeah, if there's danger, if I'm just out exploring, then I'm just me. But if there's, I get the danger signal, and there's trouble, I swish into.
Need to hit the bat signal then, huh?
That's right. Yeah, the cape and leotards come on, and I'm this big muscly dude, and I look like Henry Cavill or something, and off I go.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I think now on that point, off we go. Maybe we should go off. We go to a break now because this is, again, wow, this hour just flew past, and we're just barely scratching, but look at how much meat that on the bone to this. And I have no apologies for bringing this up because, again, this is definitely a part to consider about life, intelligent life in the universe, and whether we have heard from them or not, type of issues, at least on the low end. And the higher end, a lot to implicate and to think about, especially if you read Old Souls, even though it's a fantasy and enjoyment story. Reading that book after this discussion, I think it's gonna maybe also help people. Obviously I'm looking for some clues and stuff myself. So on that note, everyone, we shall be back. Pack them and smoke them because you're still going to need them. What's in one?
I'll be back.
Don't run. We are your friends.
Imagine that everything the U.S. government has told you about UFOs since Roswell has been a lie. Imagine that in a decade after Roswell, the government attempted communication with the aliens and succeeded. And after that, in absolute secrecy, things had gone far beyond this. Now imagine that tomorrow, the whole secret program is going to fall apart, and every terrible thing is going to come out. All we have left now is prayer. Morning Star Pass. The collapse of the UFO cover-up. A fictional but unflinching and terrifying look inside the UFO cover-up. The secret government that supports it, and the world of the aliens themselves. And then, how the whole secret kingdom ends. Morning Star Pass. A book that pulls no punches and does not sheath the sword unblooded. Morning Star Pass. Plunging boldly where no other book has ventured. Captures the whole wondrous nightmare that the UFO experience has become. From bizarre experiments performed on helpless abductees, to horrifying mutilations, to beyond, to the world of secret government supported by its own secret police, to the aliens in their secret bases, and finally to the beckoning stars themselves. The book does this by placing the cover-up, humanity, and the Earth in a real cosmos, where humanity and its passions are a part of the universe, not an aberration on it. Then comes the fall of the cover-up. In a climax of violence and desperation, to leave the human race facing the multi-hued stars with eyes open and seeking its place in them. The sands of time have run out for the cover-up, for against it, leading an army of investigators and warriors, comes Cassandra Chen, beautiful, driven, and doomed. Who can save her and us? Haha, you'll have to read it to find out. Morning Star Pass, Collapse of the UFO Cover-Up by Victor Norgard. Get yours today. You can find this at www.firstbooks.com.
Just woke up, didn't we? Many of us gotta wake up still. There's many Nazis out there. Those who not see the truth, those who not see what's going on even in their own souls. And welcome back, everybody. This is Gary Leger, host of Mars Revealer, also known as the Mad Martian. And you're listening to the Martian Revelation that is upon you all again now. And you know what? We got a lot of questions coming in, and if anyone would like to possibly call in on a timeline, I don't know if it'll actually work, to be honest, but why not try it? 202-684-6955. 202-684-6955. This would be a feat for Mean Green and Odin to work out there because of the way we're doing this. If not, I apologize. We're working on many things here, and thanks to the donations that we have gotten, we're trying to applicate new things here to make the show progress and go to where it needs to go down through time to ensure the Martian Revelation is here because of you standing with me and donate, passing the link with anything that you can. That shows you stand and become part of the Martian militia. No special clubs. You just decide to stand and have balls and raise your fist high and said, I stand with us. Because it's our fate that we must make to make this Martian Revelation on a new timeline take hold and lead us boldly, with balls in hand, to put our boots on top of the face of Mars, like Vice President Mike Pence said. And we're with our guest here, Mr. Jonathan J. Womack. And, okay, so other spirits, other beings that interact with our spirits. I mean, let me look at this. Mark, sorry, all right, we'll start here. Mark on Facebook asked if, you, John, actually are stating that our souls are from another planet or birthed on another world. I think you kind of answered that, but if you'd like to elaborate, why not? I mean, I want to be fair to all the questions here. I don't want to...
Excuse me. Yeah, let me elaborate on that. The soul is actually born in the spirit world, and one of the functions of solar systems is to serve as a nursery for souls. Because the solar systems are really set up as schools. Mm-hmm. And in our solar system, now, I have yet to determine which of our bodies here in our solar system is the home of souls. But it's one of them. It's either, it's one of the gas giants or it's the sun, because when you're flying over the home of souls, it is so vast, your mind cannot wrap around it. It's just so, it's hard to describe, but, and you have a space inside this vast sphere of energy, and the way you find your way home is via this music. And you hear this music, it's a frequency. You hear it as music.
That's funny. Mingri said that earlier. Frequency. I think he said 7.8 something hertz. That's funny you said that. But go ahead, sir.
Yeah, that's the Schumann resonance. But every soul has their own, it's like a fingerprint. You have this song that will lead you to your home. You follow this song, and the music is indescribable because it's like 1,000 symphonies playing the most awesome music all at the same time. It's just, it goes through you. You're just made of energy, so it's through you, and it's so joyous, and there's no place like home. The home of souls is the most awesome place. Yeah, that's where you're born. So you follow this song, this music, and you fly into this massive sphere that's either Saturn, Jupiter, Uranus, or the sun. I'm not sure, but it's one of those. And you go in there, and there's just countless other souls that also live there and were born there. And, you see the baby souls, they're not ready for Earth school yet. They're still flying around, like playing. They're playing. They're having fun. They're little kid souls. But
so what? Newly created souls, or the souls? Well, they wouldn't be little kid souls if they were coming back many times. And in that circle, I would assume they would remember who they are, maybe even their past lives.
Yeah.
But those are going to be the baby souls then that you're
The
talking
baby
about.
souls, yeah, when you're first born, you're just a muddy snowball of energy. And at some point, you wake up and you go, gosh, what am I doing? I've been playing this flying game in the clouds for how long? There's something more. And then, you know, you you get this kind of self-awareness, and then your parent, your guardian angel is your parent. Excuse me, I have a frog in my throat. You have a couple of parents, and you're born in the spirit world, kind of like you are here. And these guardian angels, most people mistake them for God when they have an out-of-body experience at the hospital. You know, they tell the doctor, I was looking, I saw the light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, the light, it's not God. It seems like God. Huh?
I get it, because the beings, the people that I was encountering in mine, I thought of them as angels. If not to the point, because not the first or second time, like after each time, like what you tried to do, I would try to tell myself things. All right, think of these things, or try to cull more information for when I do wake up. Not that many memories would fade. It would always fail, but I would always hold on to some stuff, and just anything to test myself, because if this is going to continue, I got to figure this shit out. And I would think at one point I was like, maybe these are angels and stuff. And I would think that to myself while I'm trying to think of three different things at the same time, in case, you know, as a means, in case my mind's being read, or if the scene is being created for me based upon control of my mind, or maybe they even seen that too. I don't know. All I'm saying is that it's a reality that I know. Obviously, I'm not home. I can't wake myself up. It is what it is. I got to go for the ride, per se. And whatever things happen, only certain things I can always hold on to. But I did consider the angel aspect. But why me? And then how would they pull my soul out? Because each time I still yet to see my body, and maybe I would freak out. But I had to come to that realization using the intelligence in my mind. And I just kept thinking of one that don't like me, calls me animal, shut up animal. Like, is that a taunt of its or his? And, or maybe, because again, the scene of how it was developing, even aboard their craft, the floor would disappear. I would see the coastline of where I was taking off from the southeast of Central Florida there on the Space Coast. It would get larger. I'd see more of the coastline larger, you know, and the floors disappeared. And this is like really fascinating. And I'm like, then I started jesting with him. I tried to wake myself up. I tried to do the pee thing several times. That don't work. It worked for you. That's a good thing, you know, but I was glad I'm not the only one that thought of it. But the thing is, trying to wake myself up from this, I would be like, okay, well, I see the rim of the earth. And I'm looking, why don't you just bring me to the moon? How would that bring me to the face of Mars? You know, and they would all look at me weird. But then memories leave. Then memories are gone. You know, it's like certain things I can remember. And grabbing this bar inside that ship once I was leaving the earth, I already saw the rim, but they said, hold this bar when it turns red. When it turns green, you can let go. And there were kids there, and I would have helped instruct them to do that too, which they would be watching me. And I was like, all right, everyone hold on to this bar. Think of like a long rectangular circle with a gold bar on top, but like velvet couches, like material. But it was on this bar on top, like you would see in a restaurant, that brass bar, handles, something like that. And then when the light was red, we all had to touch it. And then for a split second, not even a second, it felt like we were completely weightless, but then boom. And then the light would go green, then we could let go. And it felt normal again. And then I was thinking, now how the hell am I feeling that if I'm out of my body? And I remember I'm trying to think of 2 or 3 different things at the same time, because I didn't want to let them know that I was trying to figure out how to get the hell out of there. And you know what I mean? Because I don't know where they were bringing me. I don't know. I like the cool floor disappearing act, but, you know, it's got me wondering, because I was able to feel, touch. Do it, but now I don't recall smelling though.
Yeah,
I don't
you don't
recall
have the sense of smell.
Right, and I don't recall wind. So does anything I'm saying here, and I don't mean to dominate your time, I'm really trying to figure this out from your experiences, if any of this sounds familiar.
Well, that could be more of an ET related experience. That sounds like to me.
Then that means they're able to take the soul out of the body. And being in these round things, people have attributed even the moon is a soul factory or a soul capture or something like that. Have you ever heard of those stories, sir? Or is that attributed to even maybe the inspiration for your stories of some past soul memory?
Well, to me, the moon was put in place after Mars, the cataclysm on Mars.
I agree.
To prevent that from happening on Earth. And how it prevents it is when you put a non-spinning body that is, the placement really, it told me all I needed to know, just the exact placement of the moon. It's very exact. It's so exact that when you look at it from Earth during the solar eclipse, you see the edge of the sun. The moon blocks out the sun except the edge, and that was done on purpose. And, I discussed this in my latest book, Ram I Am, where torsions, the villain in that book is Torque. He can control torsion fields and tap into the power of the Earth. But, the moon does not rotate, and that was engineered and placed there in a precise orbit. And what happens is when the moon crosses the disk of the sun, as seen from Earth, the solar eclipse thing, the torsion field reverses and then realigns. And it's like a resetting process that will prevent the cataclysm that triggered the Mars destruction.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't think of it like that. I mean, you see, this is all thought-provoking. I mean, and these are the realities. I mean, and we're on not even a type 1. We're still a type 0 on a Kardashevian scale.
Yeah.
What he's talking about, this is talking about, maybe even makes it able to get to those type of Kardashevian scales we would need to be at if we're like those souls, those type of beings. Because obviously, if things come and go, the souls are able to travel on with memories and abilities to easily incorporate other worlds, go in other people, or even pull out their souls for God knows what reason, pun intended, that I intend to find out. But it's a part of the picture here. Damn it, why ain't I seeing myself? You see, that's the frightening aspect of this. And I'm not trying to stall the show. There's more people's questions here. But this is very important to me, and maybe to others, and hopefully it'll encourage others, because, yes, many dimensions of the Martian revelation. Welcome to the bizarre. And this is where it leads. And because, look, the disclosure is never going to come as we expect it. It's going to come in other forms, through codes and also through their technology, and also through using our brain and intelligence. So if we're smart enough, they will see it and know it, and we could go to the next level to hope on that, hope and change on that Kardashevian scale. Or advancement. You see, this is really, you see the thoughts are racing. I can't even talk straight. The thoughts are racing. Maybe I just better shut up, let good where it's good. I want the people to read that book. It's entertaining, and there's also a lot of potential facts in this, and clues, maybe even repressed memories. It might be fantasy to you if you are one of these souls, like in the story, several souls, or certain people that they'll inhabit, even though they may have been a hand in progeniting us to begin with, pre-Adamite and Adamite. if we want to look at that aspect, surely that's on the table too. I'm not telling anyone to bow down to anything here. All right. But let's get to questions. Nida asked, do you have any attractions towards Mars? Oh, this is a good one, I think. And when you speak of soul advancement, do you believe that we travel from world or planet to planet for growth? And I think this is what the other guy was trying to say. And where does this advancement end? That's a good question. And that's what is being hinted at. I'm only at chapter 20.
So the first part of the question, say it again.
Do you have any attractions toward Mars, like
yes.
soul-wise? And when you speak of soul advancement, do you believe that we travel from world to world or planet to planet for growth? Yes. And where does this advancement end?
Yeah,
I think that's most crucial.
Good questions. Yeah, I'm very attracted to Mars because I have past lives there. And
many seem to think so, especially related in this work that I know.
Yeah, there's a number of people.
That might be accurate for me too. And
yeah, there's a number of people on Earth right now that their most recent life was on Mars. Lives are not lived in linear fashion. Your parent may, your next life after this one could be in the 5th century in France. And then your next one will be in the year 2059 or that kind of thing. It's non-linear. It all depends on your goals and your mission, and your parent will put you where they think you have the best chance of succeeding. And
look at the galaxy a billion miles away then, or here, or wherever then, as long as it can tether or connect to.
Yeah, I mean, you see this with science fiction writers too. A lot of them, their most recent past life was in our future. So they, like George Lucas, Gene Roddenberry, Edgar Rice Burroughs, who wrote John Carter of Mars, he certainly is remembering a past life. Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster with Superman, it's not the last son of Krypton, it was the last son of Mars that they were remembering, and they escaped to Earth and so forth. So this is,
I've heard about that before. That's an interesting take on it, that it was actually Mars they were talking. They just gave a pseudonym for the planet.
Well, yeah, I think in their, as you get older as a soul, the spiritual amnesia, your parents put a wall to block all past life memory. It's for your benefit, for the soul's benefit. But it starts leaking after.
Oh, sorry. That means when you go back into the circle where you're saying the souls are, that's probably when, hey, man, check out what I just did, and connected to what I did in past lives. But then if they go somewhere else, you're saying the memories are stopped, kind of like what was described about Jonah.
Yes, you have to agree before you can come. Before you can come on Earth and live as a human, you have to agree to the spiritual amnesia. You have to agree that the physical laws of space-time are real and they exist. And then you have to agree to your own death, the circumstances of your own death. So all these things are...
I was just talking to someone earlier about that, but for something else, but notice how that karma fit. And I noticed another thing while we're on that. I noticed a lot of these souls are named after characters of elements or particles or physics. Yeah. Is there a reason behind that? And I just want to understand it more, because you know what? That could be an accurate form of maybe intelligent extraterrestrial life as well. I mean, why not?
Sure. Absolutely.
And so what's the concept that helped you do that? I didn't mean to steer off. There's more questions, but I think that's a good one because I want to know it. I mean, is there like a more to the point reason of why you applicated that more so than a comic book thing? Again, maybe these are repressed memories from your previous lives.
Yeah, it's just kind of more instinct and memories and that sort of thing. Sure. Yeah, that's where it comes from. I've had a number of experiences remembering lives on Mars. And now the second part of the question was, do we travel to other planets? Absolutely. I was saying before that our spirit parents will send us elsewhere. There's many, many other schools around the galaxy that they can send us to, and there's some crazy life forms out there, and I mean, just really bizarre stuff. And there's also alternate universes too, so it's a pretty big creation going on. Now, your parents, one time they were just like us. They lived on Earth many, many lives, and then it came time for their very last life. They've learned everything they can here on Earth, and they're ready. They're going to graduate. It's their last life. So they graduate.
To what? Just as a soul, advanced spiritual type?
Very advanced. Now, they're so advanced that when people see them at the end of the tunnel, they think it's God, because they are very godlike, these graduates. They're very powerful, super shiny, huge, shiny. I mean, I got it, my aura pic. You can see mine over my left shoulder in the distance at the end of the long, dark tunnel. And when I took that picture, I was like, hey, I want you in the picture. And so there he is.
Attempts have got to be made to bring out some shit to people to see, to believe something here.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, even King Holy Be Jesus said, blessed are those who have not seen, yet believe. Blessed.
So,
That's
all of
incredible.
us, all the souls now on the planet are working toward that goal of graduating and becoming like your parents, these godlike beings that most people mistake for God. They're not God. God is something else much more. But to us, these spirit guides seem like God. And, they're at the end of that, long dark tunnel thing. And they just shine with this radiation that is, it's this pure love. It's just pretty hard to describe. It is intense. And
I can imagine. Now, Tracy on Google Plus, I'm just trying to get to, there's many questions. I apologize. But thank you, listeners. Shows you got balls. Speak up. Timeline will be working eventually, and hopefully everyone liked the time hose when the music is on. This show's going to be different. I told you about that. But anyway, Tracy on Google Plus asked, has the guest seen any beings from other worlds? Well, this is good. Have you seen any beings from other worlds during your attempt to identify the beings? And where are they from, per se? I guess that would go back. Yeah, well, who put them in the big soul bubbles to begin with? Where are they from?
Yes, I have, and there's no way to tell where I was at the time. For local experiences like earthbound, Earth locale, I can use the internet to see where I was, or, find some event that happened and go, oh, that's where I was. But if you're out and about in space, you're in a totally unfamiliar place that you can't quite grasp even, because it's so foreign to you or so alien, and there's no way to tell where you are or what kind of civilization you were experiencing, what past life you were remembering. But it does happen. People, like I said, science fiction writers are good examples. They write these stories because this happened to them, or they remembered a past life. I just, there's so many variations of life out there, more than you could ever count, and more weird than any writer could imagine. It's just so plentiful out there. But yeah, the answer is yes. I've been to, and Mars is one of them too. And I know some of the remote viewers have described these tall Martians, and because
Did you travel to a time before or after?
Yes. I've been telling people that Mars is scaled. The planets are all scaled. Earth.
I agree to that.
And then you have Mars. It's a smaller planet. It has smaller gravity, and it had smaller people. They're really small. And the remote viewers that see tall people or short people, they're seeing the tall, tiny Martians. They're tall, tiny, but they're Martians. They're all tiny. They're not like 6 feet tall. They're, tiny Martians, tall and short.
6 millimeters tall, over pixelated, ancient alien civilizations.
They're very small. Yeah, if you look at the ruins of Mars, if you scale it down, you will see. I was talking to Keith Laney last week on a show, and we were looking at a Victoria crater picture. It's kind of a famous one. It's the Egyptian pharaoh in the side of the cliff there. It's 40 feet tall. And I don't know anybody else that had seen the Superman shield next to it, so I was pointing that out. And then I said, you have these, Will Ferrar had described these areas as windows, but they're not windows. They're hangar bays. These are very large openings that ships would fly into. You can see the landing, takeoff ledge there, and in fact, you can see a Martian ship right there on the takeoff platform. And it became once Keith realized, because he's like, what scale are we looking at here? This doesn't add up. And I said, yeah, that ship would fit in the palm of your hand. They're very small. And then he's like, oh my gosh, I see that. That does look like a ship. And oh my gosh, wow. So once you scale it down and look at these ruins from that perspective, that these ant-sized people lived on this planet and built these...
That makes giant monuments as well.
Giant! Oh, God.
And that reminds me, I'm sure you're familiar with the episode, I think it was The Outer Limits or The Twilight Zone, where I forget the actor's name. He's passed now, but he also was the guy for BJ and the Bear. I forget his name. That actor. Mm-hmm. They went up to another planet. They came across a microscopic alien civilization. He made them build a statue to them, threaten them, started squishing them, make them, to be worshipped. Then the giant aliens came and squished him like a bug. Do you know which episode I'm talking about? It was from the 60s, early 70s. I forget the name of that, but I'll put a link to that on the show archive page for people, or if it's up there, I'll just put a video for it, because it's real interesting, and I think it's pertinent to what we're dealing on Mars. There could have been various sizes, because there's giant monuments as well, huge. Now, and also at minute scale, hey, we have different breeds of beings here on Earth and animals, type life, and, various sizes. It could be also similar, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it makes total sense, because if you had a very large Earth-type planet, the people on there are going to be larger. They're going to be giants compared to us, and there's plenty of planets.
Thea, right? Or, was much larger. Now, if they were giants, that would kind of explain things in that regard to connect, again, like you said, there's a dissertation in all this science faction. This is the term you called it. And I think, and it's good because it's inspiring. I mean, look at me. I can't shut up. And, the thoughts are running through my mind. But anyway, let's travel on if that question was answered, everybody. To me, it's fascinating. I'm having fun. And that's good thing, right? But Willie on Facebook asks, do you have any knowledge of living spiritual beings from other worlds to be existing on this planet currently? That's a good question. Like Yumi had to meet, I don't want to give the details away, Jonah Trek. That would be a yes in that regard. Am I right?
I would say yes. And I know that I have myself traveled through the hole that leads to the adjacent universe to ours, the one with the most closest frequency to ours, next door to ours, let's say, and have experienced a life in another universe. Either there's another me over there, and that's why I was attracted to this. It reminds me of an episode of Next Generation where they're flying through space and they meet a probe floating, and then it shoots Picard with a beam, and then all of a sudden Picard is living this life on this planet that blew up, a million years ago. And there were people like us, and he was living the life of this guy and his family. And he lived his whole life, and then he wakes up on the Enterprise, and it was just a few minutes. And, and inside the probe was this little flute that they had put inside the probe. And he had, it was his flute from millions of years ago or whatever. But, yeah, it's that kind of thing, yeah, where I think there might be other versions of us. We're not just existing and going to school in this universe, but we may also we have aspects in other universes where we're learning there as well. And these places can be very similar to ours, but different. And, you see this in the comic books. In DC Comics, there's Earth 1 and Earth 2. The heroes look a little different and this kind of thing. But, so there are beings on Earth who have come here from other planets, and they are experiencing life as a human.
That's what I'm talking about. That's the implication. That's what I think also Ronald Reagan addressed. And do we not already have an alien presence here among us? That is very thought-provoking. Not only that they could be walking around looking like us, but they are us in that sense. Why? Because their souls are inhabiting these. And if they're on their own missions, I mean, think about it in that high extreme. This goes beyond the OBE, simple OBE experiences and things we're trying to, we're crossing many dimensions tonight, aren't we, John? But I think it's thought-provoking. Hopefully you're enjoying yourself and you don't think I'm messing things up for you. But there's another great question here. Cora on me, we asked, if we are able to travel as spiritual beings, does that mean that life after death is a misleading statement? Because we are just evolving like a larva. Whoa, we're bugs, animal, huh? Oh, shit, just evolving. All right, let me say that again. Cora, me, we asked, if we are able to travel as spiritual beings, does that mean that life after death is a misleading statement because we are just evolving like a larva transform into a fly or a worm transforms into a butterfly?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, when your physical body dies, you're going to, most folks will go to heaven. That's the reacclimation area, because birth and death are the most traumatic experiences for the soul. So you go to heaven.
Circles?
What's that?
Is that the big ball circles? That's where the soul.
No, heaven is not home. No, before you go home, you stop in heaven, and it is very beautiful. And it's calm and peace and serenity. All your friends will come and meet you, and just it's a good deal. The older souls, they fly right by heaven. They go directly home. And but once you're at heaven for a while, and the shock is off or whatever, you're reacclimated, then you go back home with your parent. And you go over all the moments of your life and the decisions you made. And it's a very careful process. A lot of time and energy is put into this because your parents really want you to become, you started out as a dirty snowball. They want you to graduate and become, godlike like them, these omnipotent kind of beings. So, once you've gone through your life and all your decisions, then it's time to set up the next life. And that's, where you get, okay, we're going to put you in here. You're going to be a man or a woman, you're both. The time period and your parents and the whole thing. They set it all up to give you the best chance of you to achieve your goals.
That's pretty funny. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's it.
I was going to say that's pretty funny because in kind of what you're describing, it reminds me of what people say also about our souls, and maybe because if we're being punished like as part of the Martians or some other civilization somewhere, that this is a prison planet of our souls. That's where the moon came in. That's where the moon came in with the soul fact, the soul thing. I'm just remembering bits and pieces. But you know what? We got some more questions, but I think we should take our last break because there's still more to go, and we could go as long as Mr. Womack's all right with it. But I think we should go to a point, if he's willing, if we do go over a little.
I don't mind. I like the questions.
Excellent.
Those are some good questions. Yeah.
Excellent, because there's a lot of info in this, and it helps spur interest in the reading that book. I'm having fun reading, even though it's comic book type story scenario. But again, there's a lot of science fiction going on there. So until we come back again, people pack them and smoke them. You're still going to need them, and it should help you think more clearer and better about these possibilities. We're freely speculating on this show. Stay tuned.
I'll be back.
Don't run. We are your friends.
The question for life on Mars has been answered in 1976. But ever since then, NASA's not wanted to go back and replicate those tests. Instead, they rather go search for signs of life instead of actually finding it. Let's all make NASA change their policy and letting them know that we demand them on the upcoming Martian rovers of the Mars Rover 2020 and the ExoMars rover. We would like Dr. Gil Levin's life detection controlled label release experiments on board those rovers. It is about time. Is it about our fate? Please join the Dr. Gil Levin's Martian Revelation Life Validation Campaign. Please go to www.thefacesofmars.com and scroll down the page and click on the glowing, blinking link for Dr. Gil Levin's Martian Revelation Life Validation Campaign. You will get to read all the information of what this is about. Please support us and please support the campaign as a White House petition is going to be in place. And this is just to let know to you all of what's coming, so when the day comes, you all go to sign it, because we need 100,000 signatures within 30 days for it to flow President Trump's desk, as well as the chair of the National Space Council, Vice President Pence. Please join the Martian Revelation, and please help Dr. Gil Levin in his quest for validation and vindication of life on Mars.
Dancing on the crumbling precipice. The rocks are coming loose to set the earth. Are we laughing? Are we crying? Are we drowning? Are we dead? The thoughts are getting closer every day. That can never happen here. We used to say happy for God to our doorstep. Has this moment finally come? Or is it all a dream? Are we not good enough? Are we not brave enough? Violence in our nature, just the image of our maker. Enough? Are we not brave enough? To think of something greater than our violence in our nature. Are we not good enough? Or is it all a dream? To a predetermined fate, are we condemned? Or maybe we're blood without a name. We're not stories, we're not actors. We're awake and in control. This is not a dream. So can we break this mold and set in motion something new? Forgetting what we know. An evolution overdue. Fight the courage for the record. Get away. Are we not good enough? Are we not brave enough? Is the violence in our nature just the image of our maker? Are we not good enough? Are we not brave enough? To think of something. Violence in our nature. Are we not good enough? We're not good enough. We're not brave enough. Is the violence in our nature just the image of our makeup? We're not good enough. We're not brave enough to think of something greater than our violence and our nature. We're not good enough. We're not brave enough. We're not good enough. Or was it all a dream?
Yes, indeed. Or was it all a dream? That's the question I've been asking all night. Because I know it was not a dream. But some things are not feeling too familiar with our guest, Mr. Jonathan J. Womack. He gave me an impression here, to which I've also considered alien intervention. I'm not going to say abduction, could be. But there's a lot more things attributed to experiences like that. And welcome back, people. This is Gary Legier, your host, the Mars Revealer, known also as the Mad Martian. Obvious reasons? I am crazy, huh? We'll see in time. And you're listening to the show through thefacesofmars.com. Thanks to shout out to my co-producer and close friend, Mean Green, and also Odin there at the gates of the Global Enlightenment Radio Network. And so things are progressing. Things are going to be moving ahead to where they need to go down through time. This is a fate, and we are making it. It's got to take us all. It don't take a village. That's not what I'm saying. But it does take others to help make this secure, this future for the Martian Revelation secure in this new timeline. And we're back with our guest, Mr. Jonathan J. Womack. Be sure to go to, what is your website again, sir? John?
JonathanWomack.com, and you're echoing, so I'm hearing you twice, like, hello, hello, hello.
That's odd.
Yeah.
That's real odd. Any reason for that, Odin? I don't know. Let me see. Let me make sure it's not on my end. I might have pressed the button. No, not on.
The heck?
An echo? Is that how it's being heard by everybody? That's odd. But anyway, hopefully that problem will get solved. But let's continue to march on. Can you hear me okay, though? Besides the echo?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Again, Joshua on Skype asked, do you know of any of the cases where a person or a spiritual being could speak fully of their existence or past existence on Mars? And what of Venus? And that's a very good question. Venus, the overlooked twin.
I would say no, because the people that are here, I hear myself repeating too. Whatever I say repeats. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. Oh
yes.
Man.
That should go. That should go. I know, and follow yourself. You sound retarded, right? It's hard to get out the next voice, but I hear you clear. There's no echo coming from your end over the air. So at least that much is good. If you could ride that out, that would be great.
Okay. Yeah, I think that the folks that are here on Earth, that their most recent life was on Mars, they're under the same rules that we are. They have the amnesia block, and they don't remember unless they're an older soul, and they get the leaks, and memories leak through, and maybe they write it down in the form of a fiction book or something. But there's going to be very few people, if anyone, on Earth now that has clear memories of their lives on Mars.
Okay. That would make sense following that trait. That's not saying that none of us could be from Mars. We, in fact, could be. That's the overall spiel of it. Even in your book, what helps to show that enlightenment, if I'm speaking that correctly, of my assessment. I'm following it. So I enjoy it. Now, this one's a pretty good question here, too. Doris asked, do you know if these energies or beings of spirits are able to travel through time, or better yet, travel to the past. And I think you kind of alluded to that already, but if you would like to elaborate more, again, I want to be fair to everyone.
Yes, time is nonlinear on the other side. Time becomes broken down Model T Ford. So that's why you can move back and forth through time, bouncing around, living your incarnations. You know, your next life could be 1,000 years BC. So.
Oh, okay. I got you now. So
Yeah.
we could be in this time frame, then wind up, we're tugging our, knuckles around, knocking our wives over the heads, dragging them in to do our whoop-de-doo with them, huh? I mean, hopefully we'll be more advanced, but if we go back to then, there's got to be a reason there for that. Remember, we have pyramids all over the world and other things we can't duplicate today. So that's not far-fetched, is it?
No. I found that I can mark moments in time in case I need to come back. And I had an instance or an experience, this was in 2013, that was very harrowing, but I marked the moment to come back later. And what happened was I go to bed, I separate, the alarm signal is there. I shoot off through the ether. I got the cape and the leotards. Well, I'm a ghost, but, I look like Superman. I'm racing through the tunnel vision that you have when you're traveling at the speed of thought.
You got an S on your chest?
I have an R.
Okay, therefore you brought that in the division of your characters as well. So again, it's being based, right, off of your experiences.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's get that. He's not saying he's Superman, everybody, but I think overall where this goes, and if you read the book, this will all make a lot of sense. And then I'm sure, like he says, I'm going to be itching at the end. It's obviously a cliffhanger, damn it. But there'll be another book. Think about that.
Well, so I race off, and a few seconds of rushing through the ether, and then I'm there. And I'm floating in front of a house, and I can see a vent or a window. It's a square opening, and out of it is the tail end of a huge python.
Huh.
The python has climbed into this air duct, and I can sense that at the other end of the air duct are two little boys, and the snake is radiating with this intense need.
So you're in your spirit form and you're witnessing a real physical event, or is this spiritual snake going to get two children's souls? I just want to be clear, so I don't.
Yeah, this is a real. I'm on the physical plane.
Physical plane. Okay. Oh, okay.
I'm on the physical plane. I grabbed the snake because I know the snake, unless I intervene, the snake is going to kill the two boys. It smells them, and it's very hungry. So I grab hold of the snake.
That takes nuts.
Yeah. So this is my gig, man. This is the lot in life for me, and this is why I'm so happy that Zack Snyder made the Superman movies, because it shows being Superman is not easy job. This experience exemplifies that. So I grab the snake. I'm pulling on the snake.
No offense, God.
I'm pulling on the snake, and it's not moving, so I pull harder, and it's not even budging. So then I really pull hard. I'm yanking on it with sufficient force that it should have ripped the thing right out of there. But for some inexplicable reason, I cannot budge the snake, and I'm thinking the snake has some kind of power I don't understand, and I'm starting to panic now because it's going to kill the kids, and I have to stop the snake. I can't fit what's wrong with my powers.
Huh.
And on the other side, it's very emotional.
Maybe it was one of those negative souls.
No.
I mean, if you couldn't use your power, your soul power.
I'm getting really panicked, and then I hear over my left shoulder from my spirit guide, "You have to go now." And I react like, "What are you talking about?" I mean, I'm frantic now. I'm panicked. What's that?
The kids will get eaten or at least killed.
The kids are gonna. I am going like, "Dude, what are you talking about? The kids are gonna. It's gonna kill kids. I gotta say, we gotta help me." And I'm like, "Why aren't the your spirit guides can do? Yeah, they're very powerful." I'm like, "Dude, come on, help me out here." "No, you have to go now." And I said, because you can't argue with them at this point. So I said, "Okay, fine, but I'm going to mark this moment, and I'm coming right back to this moment in time, and I'm going to get this snake and save the boys." So as a rush through the ether, I'm back home in my body. I open my eyes, and I have to use the bathroom. So yeah,
Oh, wow, that's a trip. The other snake came alive. The one I. Oh my God, that is a trip. That is a trip. So, but you don't. But obviously, you didn't find out what happened to the kids.
Yes, I did.
Oh, you did.
Yes. Let me finish the story here.
Yes.
I would go to the bathroom. I'm thinking, I'm very frantic because I know the snake now is moving through the air duct, and I'm in real time again. So I go back to bed. I lie down. I call the vibrations and take a deep breath. The vibrations don't come, and I'm like, okay, I got to get back there. I got to save the kids are going to die. And the more I tried to relax and bring forth the vibrations, the worse it became, and I realized I can't get back. I'm trapped. And all I could do was lay there and imagine my worst fear happening. And the sun came up some hours later, and I got up and I went to my office and turned on the computer, and I searched for "snake kills boys," and 2 stories come up. One story was something in Africa. That wasn't it. But the other story, I knew right away. It was in New Brunswick, is where I was. And the 2 boys were staying in an apartment in this house, and the other side of the house was an exotic pet store. And the python had smelled the boys, and it was able to get out of its cage into the duct. And after I left, the snake indeed did get into the room, and it killed the 2 boys. And as I'm reading this,
That's manifestation. That is manifestation and clarification for your own sanity as proof that without that manifestation, that's evidence.
Yeah, I began using the internet around the turn of the century as a tool to try and find out where I was the night before, because most times you don't know where the heck you are. I mean, this was on a street in New Brunswick. How would I ever know where? You can't know where you are unless something, well, the internet is a big help. So I realized that the snake is not the culprit, or the snake was not preventing me from yanking it out of the duct.
Gotcha. It wasn't an opposing soul force.
It was my spirit guide. Yeah, that's what I said. So I was kind of flew into a rage, and I was screaming at the air around me, Why did you stop me? I could have saved them. And I was just very upset all day, very angry. That night, I go to bed, I separate, I meet with my spirit guide, and I say that very thing, like, why? And we're back at the house in New Brunswick.
So you're at a point where you're actually are able to communicate with another one, but he's your guide.
It's my parent. Yeah, everybody has a parent. Over your left shoulder, they're watching all the time. There you have two parents. One of them's watching, or both of them are watching you at all times.
And we all grow up with kids pretty much hearing things like that, themes like that, don't we? Guardian angels or whatever, or if someone passed, like a parent, or so that's not far-fetched to contemplate, people. All right. That's very interesting story, sir.
Well, let me finish it. It's we're back at the house now because I'm trying to find out why I was prevented from saving these two boys.
Right, that's important. Okay.
So we're back at the house, and there's the air duct, and now I can see into the other room where the boys are. And now I can see the boys in their spirit form, and they are two brilliant balls of light. White, brilliant light, beautiful, loving, joyous energy radiating. They are old souls. And the reason I was not allowed to save them is because the two boys chose a life that they would live to like 5 and 7 years old and suffer a horrible death out of pure love for their mother. This is a way to give her an opportunity to overcome one of the most horrid situations you can learn as a human is the loss of a child, the mother-child bond. And that's what they were here for, and I was interfering with that. And so
that's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. You know, that's actually a touching story. That's very touching. That's right. If they would have stayed, they would have had a much, God, something could happen to them really bad. Like you said, would have made it much harder, much more soul damaging toward the mother, especially. So I'm feeling empathic to that, sir. Is it all right to ask you more questions here?
Yes, please do.
All right. Brad Olson, I think I know that name. What's up, Brad? Asked if you during your spirit or soul travels has had communication with others that are from another world. All right, that's a great question too. Again, that lies at the heart of this. And if you have, what have you learned about life, other worlds, and the path of our humanity in relation to our desire for interstellar travel and desire for new discoveries? That's a good question.
Well, yeah, that is a good question. I have run into other folks from other planets. There are many races here visiting our solar system. You see them all over. I mean, they can be all over the skies of the Earth, and people don't even know they're there. It's that kind of thing. So remember, we're in their domain. This solar system was engineered and constructed, and we're just a species in a long line. And the aliens are kind of running the show, and they're working here. This solar system is part of the larger torsion engine of the galaxy. So you have like technicians and engineers here and so forth. But yeah, there's plenty of aliens, and when you're out of body, you will encounter them because they've learned how to turn themselves into pure energy, and at that point they're pretty much just like me. They're phantoms, ghosts. People can't see them.
Therefore, could it be possible, because you kind of said like what I was describing sounded more alien oriented, right? So could it be possible that these somewhat physical aliens or whatever made the technology to figure out how to take souls and put them back? Maybe because they cannot enter the people themselves, but they found out how they could actually take souls. Maybe they're at war with those souls too, for all we know. I don't know. I'm not trying to. I'm just, my brain's turning here. This is all fascinating stuff. It really is. It's some people might say it sounds hooey. Does it? Do you ever see a bump in the night or a shadow out of the corner of your eye? Or how about this? And I have witnesses for this. That's probably even listening. Had remote controlled cars without the batteries turn on, shine its lights, and follow you around the house. What causes that? You see? So nothing is far-fetched. Nothing's far-fetched. And it ruined a great chance for me too, damn it. But it was witnessed. But I didn't freak out that time, and it ain't the first time. So it makes me wonder, though, because you said they can't be seen. Well, something was maneuvering it and steering it. Therefore, if it's not seen, how do I know it ain't playing with the damn thing, the toy with me? Just because in my physical state I can't see it, it doesn't mean it's not connected to everything that's happened to me. You see where I'm going?
Yeah.
Now, that is where I'm concerned, though. So, because at least you got, again, and to me that would be great. Yeah, I'd probably be freaked out, but I'd be at least I see myself. I think that's a blessing because, this gets in the longest stories, maybe for other conversations in the future. All right, go ahead, sir. Did you answer Brad's question there, and to move to the next, or do you have?
Yeah, we can move on.
All right. Thanks a lot, Brad, for the question. And Aggie, I guess, asked, during your spirit travel, have you discovered anything that has been found out to be discovered by a scientist at a later date? That's a good question too, I guess, in regards to these experiences. And I'll now add to that. And where has that research been taking you on that research to show that as a fact that this is all real?
That's a good question. I'd have to think about that for a bit, though. Nothing comes to mind that any science I've noticed on the other side, and then it was discovered here on the physical plane kind of thing. I guess the biggest one would be with the moon, when torsion physics is better understood, the spin fields driving the galaxy. It's all about the turn, it's all about the spin. And the moon, I think that's a big one. It's part of the story of my most recent book for a reason, because I'm hoping that the torsion physics will come out. Like I said, the moon was engineered and placed there for a reason. It doesn't orbit for a reason. And that's important as far as our legacy with Mars. I think that is very tied to Mars.
Yes, I agree. So some of that to agree. Mars is definitely a big part of the puzzle piece here, as well as the war and the planets there that blew up. And then it makes you wonder, were they indigenous? Or did they come from elsewhere? Could it be connected to what President Trump says is the threat coming from deep space? Not just threats of here on Earth that he wants to protect us from with the Space Force. That's incredible. And then telling General Dunford again, got it? All right, good. Good luck, General. Now go get it. Go get what? You know what I'm saying? I mean, you can't make this shit up, So what sounds more crazier? I mean, this is not crazy. This is what the Martian revelation is going to entail. We're going to be on a total new phase of life in the future that can save civilization. I have to believe that because that's part of the reason why this show's back through time and I'm phased back through time. So on that note, let's go to another question. And this one's pretty good too. And, you know, I'm glad we're able to cover all these multi-dimensions. Hopefully you don't mind that tonight, sir.
No.
But, all right, this one, let me make sure. I think this one, because it dealt with time. Well, anyway, I'll read it anyway. Carl on Facebook asked, can lucid dreaming actually be a form of time travel? Time, another aspect covered on this show.
Yes.
Listeners show can appreciate. And not just be a view of destination, since there it is again, since vibrations exist in time, space, and with gravity.
Yeah, I did some lucid dreaming time travel fairly recently when I sat down. You know, I'm producing this TV pilot, OBE, out of body experience. All this time in my life, I have not remembered what scared me so bad because I did not want to remember it. You know, back in 1965. So the time came. Now I got to go back. So I lie down and you get in that very relaxed state. You start lucid dreaming. I just took myself back in my mind to that point in time, and I'm remembering myself lying there in bed, and then I'm there. I feel like I'm there. So I get out of bed. I walk out the door, down the hall. I get to the steps and I start walking downstairs to where we all would watch TV. And I'm walking down the stairs now. You know, I'm 6 years old. And I'm walking down and I get near the bottom of the steps and I can look over and I see my family watching the TV. As I'm, you know, I can feel whatever scared me. I'm like, whatever it is downstairs. So I go downstairs. Now I'm going, whatever it was is on the TV. I don't want to look at it because I don't want to face that fear. But, you know, I got to write this TV pilot. So it's time to figure out. So I look over on the TV and I see the Cyclops from Lost in Space, and instantly it all came back to me. But I had forgotten that for 50 years because I just was not ready to remember that. And it's not a fun thing to do, lucid dreaming sometimes in the time travel. Now, there's another kind of time travel where I went out of body, you know, I separate, the emergency beacon is there. This is how I start my most recent book, Ram I Am, that came out in December. I get the beeper signal. This one's very dire, and I shoot off, and I'm flying through the tunnel, and now I can see 10,000 feet below is the island of England. The British Isles are below. That's where my alarm signal is originating from. I shoot down, flying at the coast, the southern coast of England, and a ship comes into view, a 17th century sailing ship. It's docked along the shore. I get closer. Now I can see on the deck that there's a commotion. There is a man in a tunic and a woman behind him, a Victorian-looking woman. The man is fighting off 3 scallywags, pirates, I don't know what you want to call them. But they are going to kill him and the woman.
Huh.
And the man is the source. The protector is the source of the alarm, and the alarm is just like so strong, like and it's him, and he's going, "Help me!" And he's all cut up, and a pirate has stabbed him with a sword clean through his stomach. And the man is not going to make it. He has a mission to complete, and so I watch as he in fact separates from this impaled body, and the light at the end of the tunnel appears, and the guy goes floating off down the tunnel, and shing, flash, bang, he's gone. And the next moment, I am pulled into this body, and all of a sudden, my perspective is that of this man, and I have a sword sticking through my belly, and I'm facing face to face with this bastard who just stabbed me, and I can feel this steel piercing me. It's really hot. It hurts, but I'm separated from that enough. I have buffers.
You're getting an imprint. You're getting an imprint through time of the event. If that was you, the memory of it.
It was the previous me. It was me calling out to me, a future me, to come, for help.
Gotcha.
So here I am. I was able to, the pain is not debilitating. I'm able to function, and I have a sword in my hand that's dangling there, and I cut through the guy's wrist. I cut his freaking hand off, and he falls backwards over a stand of barrels, and I take his hand and I discard it, and I pull the sword out of my belly, and the other two pirates are like, oh my freaking God, this guy is, some kind of demon or something. So I go after those two. I kick the one guy unconscious, and the other guy goes over the side rather than fight a zombie. I mean, they're pretty freaked out. And the third one just had his hand cut off. He's not going to be giving me much trouble. So I turn to the girl, and I'm like, run. And we go running down the gangway to the shore, and then we're running up this path along the coast there. And once I realize that the woman is safe, I look behind me to make sure there's no pursuit. There's none. I realize it's time to go. My mission is done. So I separate from that guy, and his body hits the ground. I described it in the book as he hits the ground limp as a stampeded monkey, because that body was so dead. I was the only thing keeping it going after the guy left, and I was called upon just to complete the mission. And so, yeah, I left, and I just, like I describe in the book, I take a nice leisurely flight over the English Channel and take a ride at France and head back toward America, and just enjoying, after the violence, I'm enjoying a period of peace and serenity before I go back to my body. So you can travel through time. In my case, I've gotten SOS calls from different times, different me's.
That is all fascinating, because, again, you could traverse space, you have to traverse time. And that's a big factor on this show that we look at here, and how worlds communicate. And I'm learning that more and more. It is interesting, though. Are we ready for the next question? Or?
Yeah.
All right. And this one, I think, is a pretty good question. Nadine on Facebook asked, are people in a coma traveling spiritually or soul-wise to other worlds, or are their minds stuck in the captivity of their earthly body?
No, they are not trapped in the body, and they're out and about. They're in the spirit world. Absolutely. Are they traveling to other planets and stuff? Possibly, but they're there with their parent. They might be at the home of souls while their body's in a coma. So, I mean, people go out of the body all the time. It's a natural thing. And you don't remember this, but many of your nights are spent with your parent, and you're in class learning, and you might be going over some stuff that happened to you that day in your physical life. And when you wake up in the morning, you don't remember any of this. You subconsciously you do, but you don't remember. But this is going on all the time.
Bring out those memories is all right. It's going on all the time. Okay, that's a good thing. So maybe that could help me. Is there a way to bring out those memories without the spooky aspects of causing harm or making you want to jump out of a window or something?
Well, the trick is to keep your conscious mind, participating in the experience. And most times, if you want to attempt to call the vibrations and have an OBE, a lot of times you just fall asleep.
Right.
But if you can stay awake.
I know you describe it, you give attributes, but what the hell is it? And that's what I need to figure out. I don't know why. I don't think I could do anything with that knowledge anyway, but it always makes me wonder. And because I know time's going across, and it's like as if they're having me asleep, even in my soul state, feeling it like a crab zooming, and in that vibration, it feels like hours, but it's minutes.
You might want to check into a reputable regressor, a past life regressor, and they hypnotize you, and they can take you back to your birth, and then
I would never do that unless there's witnesses. And that's funny you mentioned about my birth, because there's issues there as well that these experiences go back to the connectings of my life to even why I'm here now. And I know that's really crazy, Mad Martian fitting, but I don't know who I would do that. I have no funds for that. I would definitely want it recorded, because I probably wouldn't believe him if he puts me to sleep. Yeah, he could say I said anything.
Yeah.
But I would want it recorded. I want someone very close to me to be there that pays strict attention to detail. And so I don't know if that's such a thing or not, but I appreciate that statement. I am taking that to heart, but who aware if there's any serious ones out there that could help based upon these discussions, very interesting discussions this night. Take it for what it's worth, but believe me, there's someone somewhere under being paid some government fund with some alphabet agency looking into serious considerations of this. I guarantee it. Mm-hmm. Now, so it's not far-fetched. They can say we're nuts all they want, but there's serious aspects to this. That's very important, and to me, as I need to solve, and I need to remember. But anyway, there's another good question here. Tony on Facebook asked if a person during their dreams or spiritual walk can transform into any being that they can manifest. Does it work like that?
Can turn into any being. I'm not sure what that means. I mean, when you're out of body, you can certainly look like anything you want to look like, your appearance.
That's interesting. Okay.
Or you can just be a curl or a swirl or a fog or a wisp, but usually you just look like yourself. So can they turn into any being? I'm not sure what he means by that.
Yeah, and you're right. I'm glad you said that, because I made strict note to make sure I am who I am. This is my body, my hands. I don't have green heads or green scales or anything different. I take mental note of that every time. This is a real serious discussion I'm trying to have here, and it raises many issues. And again, look at the various questions from people. This all arises. I'm surprised we're not even getting more, but who knows? It has been a long show, and it can keep going. Need be. Other minds stuck in a capacity of the earthly. I don't see any more questions at the moment. I believe I covered them all.
Cool.
So, okay. Now, on that note, so therefore, regression hypnotherapy. Do you advise that? Do you think that is helpful?
Oh, yeah. It's very helpful for some people, because they maybe carry over in this life and they don't understand what's going on, and then they learn that their last life they had this thing happen to them, and then now it's carried over, and it explains to them, and they're able to deal with it better and overcome it and make changes and that kind of thing. So it can be very helpful to remember a past life, but it can also be, I've gone there, remembering past lives that were not that fun. They were not good ones. That can really suck. Yeah.
Well, kind of like getting stabbed, through the stomach with a sword. I mean, yeah, I'm sure it could be worse, but damn, Oh wow, yeah, I'm sure, and all that could be possible. All that could be possible. Again, very fascinating concepts and thought-provoking ideas, and it does help answer to the realm of life after death. What becomes of them? What caused them at that period of time to die in their life compared to a previous life? Maybe have to relearn something. You kind of hinted at that earlier. Obviously, a lot of this is basically, should we just say reincarnation, or is that something different altogether?
Yeah, it's reincarnation. Yeah.
Okay. But while your body's alive and your soul is able to go elsewhere, is that because maybe we might be part of these beings that are from elsewhere, but a lot of other people aren't? Because if there's a limited number of intelligences coming across that way or seeding on, just to maybe continue their existence on within us, there might be a limited number rather than an unlimited number, which would really make it invasion considerations.
Mm-hmm.
You see where I'm going here, right, sir?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm looking at many different angles of this, because remember, we have a war that took place on the planet next door. Whoop-de-doos happen here on Earth that may be the same war.
Yeah, there's a war taking place on Earth right now, a spirit war for control of the Earth.
Right, but I remember, but I'm speaking like in the past, where the model of the exploded planet and the actual physical beings that create these things there and here, these solar system wide, maybe even more, to where this Star Wars situation may have took place, or was it just a war like described? I don't want to give it away, but people read that book, Old Souls, because the moons in the world, well, things happen, and one of them is like an Islamic mindset, creating that vorticular circle going around the thing. What energy and spirits is that bringing forth to meet the ones on the moon who don't share that particular mindset, but have a different particular mindset, that they attract souls, or that their souls, well, and obviously a clash would be ensuing. And if it's a limited scale just between those two worlds, or is it more of a global, solar system wide scenario where we see all objects in our solar system, even right now, with Ultima Thule out there, and what that's representing too. I mean, these things are all over the place. This is not a bygone coincidence. This is all evidences of the fact of this ancient cosmic war. And again, scripture-wise, that connects to that. Many discussions and many shows will be brought forth on these subjects. John, hopefully you don't mind the many directions we went on this show this night. And do you have anything else as we calm down that you would like to add or really tell us about that you were hoping to? I hope I didn't rob you of that opportunity.
No, I think we've covered a lot of ground, and I enjoyed the questions, and that was a lot of fun.
All right, I appreciate that. Would you like to plug? Do you have plug any conferences or any? When's the next? All right, I gotta ask. When's the next book? Do you anticipate a year or two for?
I would say a year or two. Yeah, I've got a good start on 2 sequels, and
awesome.
The the first sequel is called The Dolphinius Effect, and it's the sequel to Ram I Am. That's, my out-of-body hero guy. And
so connected stories. That's cool.
Yeah. The book starts out, and Jack and his wife are in not San Francisco, where the aquarium is, Monterey, California. They got the Monterey Aquarium, and they're having lunch, and then they hear this commotion out along the pier, and it's Jack's like, gosh, something's going on, something's up, and they go out, and there's this dolphin. He's looking for this human. He senses Jack, somebody that can understand him, and the dolphin calls himself Dolphinius, and Jack's like, oh my God, I got to get north-south. They jump in their car, and Jack puts the seat back, and off he goes, and he's flying about 15, 20 miles off the coast of California, where a skirmish is taking place between the Navy and pods of dolphins, and the Navy is slaughtering thousands of dolphins, and Jack, Ram is freaking out. And this is his first learning that there's been this war of the Navy versus the cetaceans, and it's been going on. And what happened was the Fukushima leakage that leaked into the water, the radiation, it has killed so much marine life. And, if you got dolphins with half their face gone and missing, it's really done a number. And so I took that and wrote the story based on that, where it's given some of these cetaceans superpowers. So Dolphinius has superpowers, and there's a few other dolphins have powers, and some other marine life, whales and so forth. So that's the Dolphinius Effect, and it's pretty cool so far.
Sounds like a cool concept. I mean, why not? It would make great Saturday morning cartoons that they never do anymore. Ain't that interesting? But it would be. It would be, thought-provoking, because like you did with the book, you could be, again, science fiction. And I like that term you made. So, yeah, I look forward to that. Definitely the sequels. And then obviously it'll expand the other books. And hopefully you'll be a guest on again to talk about those books each time they're ready. Or whenever you feel like you have something to bring up, just, give me a shout. And if you want to do a show, and we'll set something up.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So again, thank you very much for joining us this night. And again, your website, sir?
JonathanWomack.com.
Exactly. So go check it out. Ram I Am. He's the dog man cometh. I definitely love that name. And I also call him that, don't I? Dog
yes,
man. Even though he has a buddy named that, but still, I think it's cool, and that looks like a cool cover too. I think I'm gonna want to read that eventually. Yeah. So, but I'm a little slow in reading. I got many things I'm reading, but I enjoy reading. I'm not a speed reader unless I devote myself to one thing, and I have enough time. Yeah, I would have already been done. So I apologize for that, sir. But I am enjoying it, and I recommend that others, based on these interesting conversations, is embedded in that book, and it's hey, more power. And for all we know, it could be maybe some of your memories from the past, too. There may be truths in this all. Again, thank you very much, Mr. Womack, for joining us, and we shall speak again.
Take care, Gary.
All right, you too, sir.
Good night.
Good night. All right, everybody, that was interesting. Jonathan J. Womack there. Again, we went down various avenues on this show tonight. I got to admit, I kind of lost it. I mean, when it came time to yanking the snake, but that's cool. Different things, people pick up. It's like they leave themselves totally open. No, they're not really trying to do that. It's just a sick, crazy mind of a mad Martian that sees something. Hey, and whatever. It's funny, but it adds flavor, because some of these subjects can be scary. And believe me, and I'm serious about alphabet agencies somewhere. on the ground, taking very serious the type of discussions or concepts thereof of very seriously regards to extraterrestrial intelligence and any potential threat that they may oppose, especially if they're able to be born unto us here. What if they have their memory intact, some of them? You get it? We're already infiltrated. We're here. Huh. It becomes more serious then, doesn't it? More threatening than, oh yeah, they could look like us. They could be anyone. Never mind the commies. But the threat coming from deep space. Threats coming from deep space. I kind of had fun on this interview, or this show rather. It's just everything's always on the fly, but my mind is definitely twirling this night. Hopefully yours will too. And at least, you could read the books, have some fun while doing it. And it does stick to us, a lot of where the science is going to. So it'll hopefully inspire the younger children and stuff like that, being attributed to superheroes and stuff like that, being able to entwine that and what Jonathan is doing there, the dog man. But it's very interesting. I can see where people might get thrown off, but on the same track, maybe those who have similar relations or interests in the things, issues that, at least when you look at them, some of them seriously, that may touch upon you. For all we know, that make this discussion worthwhile, and to put, just don't knock it. Especially if we are having to, be old souls. Are we a prison planet? Is the moon a soul churning machine? A redistribution machine? Are aliens able to take a human soul out of the body? Are they at war with the souls? Why would they want to come up with that technology? Maybe because they can't do it? Then what would be their purpose in doing it, if at all? Just many of the questions arisen this night on the Martian Revelation. But before we sign off there, I'd like to maybe, if me and Green or Odin got their ears on, what they think. Let's go for an assessment. Or you could email me at marsrevealer@gmail.com. That's marsrevealer@gmail.com. And, tell me your thoughts. Please donate to the show, too. And one show is the lead to the truth, one show at a time. And there was truth mentioned in tonight's show. You got to pick and choose and think about what's the most serious. But I think someone's on with us right now. Hello? Oh, hey, bro. So, that's cool. So it was entertaining at least. Well, what do you think of the concepts? I mean, I think, do you think that, am I wrong that there's some serious concepts to think about in these possibilities? Still got me captivated with this vibrating thing, which I think, and he said it's something resonance. Or what was the frequency, and what does that have to do with anything? I don't know what it is. Okay, but I'm ignorant on that, even though I know that's important, and I know that's considered in wireless technology, right? Okay. All right. I obviously didn't. That ain't the one with the brain picture, is it? With the okay, yeah, all right, I seen it. I, Hopefully the people like the space hose. Schumann resonance or Schumann or Schumann. Right? What could be? I wonder if that has to do had any connection to this out of body experience and or souls being able to be invading or steering us or interacting with us. Well, it's going to ultimately happen when we, have our final breath. That's for sure. But that's the question. What happens after that? And well, he brought. That's the gist of what that concerns me. Remember, animal. Shut up, animal. How could that any of that even went on? I remember every emotion, everything. That is odd. That's why there's aspects to this that has me concerned, especially this vibrating thing. Because what more does it do? Can it be used to travel? And can it be used to capture an actual spirit, an actual soul? Those are very good questions, especially when you consider interdimensional beings or spirit beings being crossing over from one to the other. Uh, that's not so far fetched or crazy, too crazy a question to wonder if that's a reality. Then we don't even really know. We don't compared to the Kardashevian scale of what that would be. You know what I mean? Hopefully that makes sense. You know. So overall, like, yeah, it was a good show. Uh, wow. I didn't expect the Superman aspect to it though, but again, that's what inspires them to write these books also, and to help inspire us all. And why not? It's a way to get it out there. I think there's more to this all than meets the eyes. And like you said, people, we just gotta, you know, like I don't know, take whatever you can, But the serious aspects for me, That's the things I was trying to focus on. Was if Martians did come here upon their demise and intersouled with us, that's very implicating. Very implicating indeed. Were we made for soul hopping? We're trying to do that transhumanism, put us into robots. We'd be doing the same type of thing, but putting them in machines with the help of also AI, and to somehow transfer what? Our spirit under them? That's very interesting concepts. Well, I guess this is drawing down to a close. There's been enough thoughts. All I know is that long ago, many things happened on Earth, on Mars, in the stars, and we're not being able to know all the answers to the truths of these things. But there are things and answers and truths that we could have in our lifetime, of things that are important now to us that we can have the ability to find out. Like the Dr. Gil Levin's Martian Revelation Life Validation Campaign coming up in a couple weeks. The petition will be going with the head of Mr. John B. Wells heading it off, spearheading it for Dr. Gil Levin. And I commend him for that, and I honor him for that. And we desperately need his help to help Dr. Gil. Because again, John B. Wells ain't about bullshit. He don't bullshit people. And you don't like to take bullshit. He'll call bullshit what's bullshit. So that's why when he says he'll help us do this, he will help us do this. Make sure you check out Caravan to Midnight or Arc Midnight. Because he's helping set the path to secure this timeline for the Martian revelation as well. He also said it. Everything's connected. Nothing's coincidence. We all have a part to play. And I listened very intently to his words. Believe me. He doesn't have time just to play games. So, he did us, a big favor and a justice being here on this show. And I thank him for that. But it wasn't about me. It was about, about helping Dr. Gil Levin. You heard it on all the spiel earlier. Just when it comes out, we need to get this going far and wide. Hopefully others will follow suit with him, and with his encouragement, we'll get those signatures. Then let's see the fate we'll make. Grow some nuts. Why not? Let's take it by the balls, us by the balls, and make America great permanently. And build our Space Force. Because remember, long ago, all this evidence was here. And long ago, we are trying to rediscover what our collective memories have forgotten. Old souls are new. I don't really believe in reincarnation, but per se. But I cannot rule it out either, because, there's such a thing as resurrection. That's impossible, but yet someone did it. The rest have died, rotting in their graves, becoming fossils. Only one walked out, and his name is King Holy Be Jesus, and that was long ago as well. Till next week, everybody, I'm your host, Gary Legier, the Mars Revealer. What a mad Martian, whatever your preference. Good night.
Mad Martian.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that time change, dude. You know the spring forward. How's it going, bro? Yeah, I saw you earlier. I definitely could see the pain. Yeah. So what do you think of the dancing girls? You like that? You like that new scene I just added, Gary? It's a pan out. It's a pan out.